Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.
Is Eddie gonna be on? Yes, Eddie's gonna be on. Travis, thanks for asking. That's a great question. Welcome to Synctank. I'm Andreas. The sun is shining. I like the way this is. You know, this natural lighting. It feels like some 80s movies that you might have seen. David, how are you doing?
Doing good, man. How are you?
You've got a radiance to you. It's that California sun. You know, I think it's the sun-kissed skin.
I think it's partly my television set that's above my computer that's like glowing on me that I use for my shitty lighting. But yeah,
I was thinking it'd be cool to have just like Hollywood studio light set on an alarm clock so that every morning you wake up and it's just like bright as heck, or whatever time you want to wake up. It could be in the middle of the night. Thomas, good to see you. What's up, buddy?
And I think you can get like little paparazzi modes on lights now too, so you can wake up and have like the shutter sounds going off and the lights flashing, so you can get like that full effect.
If it's red, white, and blue, so it's like America, but then you have a siren
or police.
Like,
yeah,
exactly. Eddie, what's up with you? What have you been up to?
Nothing much. I guess it was my last post. I was in Santa Monica because I had to take my kid to see I won't say for what reason, but he just got some allergy stuff. So I stopped by a restaurant.
This is right. Okay, this blew my mind. Okay, can you have the picture? Can you? I'll find the picture.
You can look it up. Okay. Look up my my Twitter. So this it was totally accidental because I went. Yeah. See if I can roll it up.
There you go.
Or
So this is like this is where this is in LA.
Okay,
this is in Santa Monica.
Yeah, so this is in Santa Monica. You know, I haven't been to Santa Monica in months because that place is plagued with homeless people right now. But it was really clean today. I was like, well, what's the big deal? I don't see any crazy.
They pay a lot of money in Santa Monica to push them off into the Venice side.
Well, you know, their PD sucks. You know, the cleanup effort is really slow, but I think it's done doing much better job now.
Did I just see a picture of avocado toast, Eddie?
Oh yeah. But
when in Rome, right?
I tell you this though. Because I ordered all the dishes because immediately I found out where the place was, because this was just like very nearby the hospital I took my kid to. So we were just starving to death. We didn't have time to eat breakfast, so we just like drove around, and also I saw this beautiful house.
It's called the Tartine. The
Tartine Bakery and Cafe. So yeah, it's Tartari Bakery. Tartarier Bakery.
I tried really hard not to, I was holding it back.
So we just saw a bunch of people. It was crowded, and I was like, this beautiful building, and I really learned it's like a Tudor style. I thought it was like a Dutch, Dutch villages, but I thought, wow, this beautiful mansion, and it was right in the corner of the street. So we just pulled over. I said, let's eat here. It must be good with all these people. So we walked up, and then when I was buying, and then I was like, this is a great place. What's the history of this place? And then the manager just told me, oh, this used to be a funeral home. And then funeral home. I came to funeral home to have breakfast, and then but I looked around. I asked him, was this a church? Because if you look at the interior, it looks like a church. So I thought, was this a church? And no, it was a funeral home. And so, oh really? And then yeah, Ronald Reagan, his body was, but he said it out of his mouth. He said Ronald Reagan was cremated here.
Gosh,
so
that's why, and that's where they make the pizzas. I'm sorry.
That's why it tastes so good. It's got all that great tart.
It's just better ovens.
The bittersweet charred pork taste. But
God,
but I was so excited by that information.
Nancy Reagan too, according to your SM Conservatory. Nancy Reagan too. You ate where the ghosts are. That's so scary. I don't know
why they chose that place, but when I heard that,
also, even if you don't know what Tartaria, it's like Tartarus, so it just feels like death. It's a weird name.
Oh. But it's a beautiful place. I mean, it's very bright and great lighting. So I was so excited. I just started ordering a bunch of stuff. Right, I ordered it's a French bakery style. So I look at all these things. I started ordering like crazy, and I ran up a bill of $150, not including tip. I'm like, I ordered like
only Biden bucks.
It was me and my wife and my kid and then some pastries, and it was $150. I didn't even order drinks, so I just my jaw just dropped. I just signed the credit card and what the fuck?
Yeah, be careful in Santa Monica, man. Yeah, that's why there's so many homeless people. It's because they went to the.
They all accidentally got a brioche and was like, "Oh, that's it." No,
yeah, you ever eaten raw food at graduate camp? That place will make you poor very quickly and skinny.
Is one of the most expensive Los Angeles areas, so there's no joke. But the place before they changed the name to Tartine, it was called the what does it say? It was called the original name was. I wrote the name down. I don't know where it is now. Wait, hold on. I'm reading my comments. Oh, wait a second. I think it's in my
Cruella de Vil Funeral Home. Something.
Cafe Gratitude makes a lot of people poor.
Yeah.
Okay.
And fun fact, connected to a cult. Remember that whole story with Cafe Gratitude?
Oh, right. It was they were into The Secret, right? Wasn't it that you couldn't work there unless if you read The Secret?
That was the first step. That's just coming. The Rosicrucians have some pretty light starts as well. I think. Did you ever? It's like Harry Potter, right? I remember when the Christians said Harry Potter was evil. I'm like, come on, it's this kid with his school. But then I skipped a few books and went and saw the last movie, and then Dumbledore's gay, and he's just like eating me and all the poison, Harry. And I'm like, okay, all right, I see what you meant. If you gotta follow it through to the 7 degrees, but it gets darker, very quickly.
Have we ever gotten in? Did I ever bring up the Yellow Deli on this show before?
The Yellow Deli? No.
If you've never heard of the Yellow Deli, it is a cult-based deli that everyone that works there is basically in this cult, and it's known as the 12. I'm gonna make some of this up, but the 12 Tribes of Judah or something. And dude, their backstory is incredible. Basically, it was a bunch of hippies that they got ultra conservative and they went anti. This is the Yellow Deli.
Oh my god.
And they went anti-drug, anti-hippie, but stayed hippie, but then embraced Revelation style fire and brimstone God, but it's this really nice sort of rustic facade. But yeah, if you want to join the cult, you start out by working for free for a while, and if you can start doing
and their logo on because we are sheep. I get it. Oh,
and dude, there's all kinds of accounts of abuse and stuff, but it is also the best deli sandwich I've ever had in my life. And we were joking the whole time that it might be worth joining the cult if you got to eat those sandwiches all the time.
I mean, it's true. I think people associated with cults run good delicatessens. I don't want to dwell on that. That might be a dangerous place to go. Thomas, you had something that you wanted to bring up about the opiate wars, and it was interesting because I was commenting earlier on Afghanistan because I forget what you said, David, but I was just thinking about how with fentanyl, we pulled out. There was really no reason anymore for the CIA to or whomever. I'm sorry. Didn't want to put names on people, but whomever is watching over the opiates, it's not as valuable as it used to be now. So what's the point of being there, right?
Well, and I brought up the fact that academia, at least Yale, and therefore Skull and Bones, and therefore CIA, was all pretty much funded directly from the China opium trade. And this is a series of books called Opium Traders and Their Worlds that I read over 10 years ago now. Yeah, 2013. That's crazy. But this goes really deep into some of that history, and I just had like some choice sort of quotes here. Like for example, a lady Brooke Russell Astor, who's this actual lady here. This is Brooke Russell Astor. She died in 2007.
Wait,
But her
is she part
name,
of Astor?
Can you?
she is, yeah, the Astor family. That actually her tripart name. Yeah, I can zoom in a little bit.
Yeah, thanks.
Was that how they made their fortune? The Astor family on Titanic? Or what is it, David Astor or John Astor? I forget his name. What's his name?
You're talking about the John Astor, but they had their money from a lot of different areas.
John
But yeah,
Astor.
I mean, the tripart name right here of this lady was the three biggest opium trading families, which was the Russell family, the Brooke family, and the Astor family. And there was a note in here about right here, the Dulles. I don't know if this was Alan Dulles or his brother.
That is how you spell Alan Dulles' last name, right?
Correct. Yeah, this is from
These are
Dulles'
the
notes.
same people, man.
That
Yeah.
1805 was the first official date that Americans started bringing opium to China from Turkey. So it wasn't just them
Turkey.
going over to to China and bringing it all over here. They were international opium traders. They were bringing it all over the place, and they were helping set up this international opium drug trade. Like as a worldwide, kind of sort of corporation. It wasn't just they found this one path and started bringing it out. That was their entire setup.
And were they collaborating with the British opium trade? The Sassoon family. The Sassoon
And the
family was
Dutch.
mostly blamed for what happened to China. I mean, the Opium War. But I don't know. I don't know who was more influenced, the Yale, the Skull and Bone bunch or the Sassoon dynasty. They're from Mumbai. Well, I won't say
They call themselves on
background.
Wikipedia.
Yes.
It says they're the Rothschilds of the East due to the immense wealth and the accumulated finance and opium trade as a Baghdadi Jewish family originated in Baghdad, Iraq, later moved to Bombay, India, and then emigrated to China, England, and other nations. That's the Sassoons.
And
You know what a Yale
here,
is? Do you guys know what a Yale is?
That's a good question.
Yeah, what
is
a
it?
Yale is. So like I had a friend, I interviewed him on Always Record a long time ago, and I did an album cover for him, and he said I want a Yale on the album cover somewhere, just like so. He basically so this guy went to Yale. He was actually in the graduating class of who's that kind of controversial journalist lady that really got shut down in 2020. What's her name? I can't remember, but famous journalist lady, whatever. He was at a parade and he saw this like demon thing that was like somebody in a demon outfit that was like in the parade, and he was like, what the fuck is that doing there? And somebody was like, that's a Yale. And they're like, what do you think this, like, did you know, no one told you what a Yale is? Because he's been attending Yale. He didn't realize it's kind of like, it's really hard to find. Like this was a whole crazy, it's not it.
The creature that they used in the tunnel, the opening ceremony in Switzerland.
This is super esoteric. So it was like and it took me a long time to find I found two legit old pictures of what a Yale is, and I used one of them in the album cover. But yeah, it was a whole crazy process. It's like it stands on two legs. It's like a but yeah, maybe it's named after this thing or something. I don't fucking know. But yeah, no, it's
I'm gonna show you the picture of that. You guys remember the ceremony, right? The Gotthard tunnel in Switzerland. They open up with that crazy song and dance.
Oh yeah,
yeah, the crazy. It just looks like sacrificial ritual, but it looks like that creature. I'm thinking, I'm trying to take a snapshot, but it looks like looks like a Yale that you described.
It's funny. I didn't even show the whole Godard tunnel ritual because it's like it features things that wouldn't be okay on YouTube. But yeah, she's got a kind of Godard. She's got a. I shouldn't zoom in too hard, but it looks like she's kind of going for the Yale beast look. You know what I mean? She's got the horns at least.
I dropped. Oh, actually, that's the guy. But he took off his horn. You see that guy on the left? He's that creature. Oh, yeah. So you see that? So I don't know if it's like a mountain goat from the Alps, but it looks like Yale. I don't know.
Yeah, Yale animal.
So where's the origin of that word, David?
Yale, mythical beast found in European mythology, describes an antelope or goat-like creature with tusks of a boar and large horns. These horns possess the ability to swivel in any direction, which makes them good for both offense and defensive actions. Wow, so it's a spiraling horn, like a kind of like an
Ibex.
octopus.
Yeah.
Hebrew word.
So
It's Hebrew.
So Skull and Bone, Yale University, huh?
And I've from some I think his name's Anthony Sutton. Did I get that right? That
Yeah,
wrote
Sutton,
a lot
yeah.
of the Skull and Bones books, and he makes a good point that the original version of Skull and Bones was actually SCULL, which stood for the boat, like a Scully boat. And that was a nod to the fact that the origins of Yale and Skull and Bones was from this opium trade.
Yeah, my friend was walking by the place like where they have Skull and Bones, and he just stopped for a second, and he like was looking at it, and he didn't like walk up to it. He just stopped for like a little
mean the
bit,
tomb?
and then he walked back to his room, and there was a note on his door when he got there that was just basically an eyes wide shut note, like don't go any further near whatever the fuck. So he got a threatening
invited.
note just for like stopping in front of that place and like looking at it, you know.
You know, but Skull and Bone originated from Germany, right? I mean, that was the origin.
The origin of this gets almost into like Freemasonry origin territory, where anyone related to it wants to link it back
Right.
as far as they possibly can. So it turns into like almost a game. But
Right.
the most like credible, I guess, from Sutton is that he mentions that the Skull and Bones was most likely a German extension of the original Bavarian Illuminati, and then they brought it over to the U.S. So it was essentially this one heavily debated, but the 322 was potentially like the 322nd lodge of the Bavarian Illuminati, but the first one to make its way into America.
Hey, you guys know that we're actually celebrating the 322 right now, right? This is the Feast of the Beast that's been preparing since March 22nd, all the way to Beltane, May 1st. I just read about it. I don't know if I bookmarked that article, but it was saying that's people say, oh, it's starting from the spring equinox, but 322 is the starting.
You guys, you know that quote from George Washington about that book, Proofs of a Conspiracy, where he says that he's not aware of the Illuminati, the Bavarian Illuminati, spreading to America, but he's like, he says that they're what is he? I think he uses the word diabolical or something. It's like he's really harsh on them, man, because he's just like they look to separate people from their governments, and you know that's a great freaking book. That's a short title too, by the way. This is from 1778, I think.
Right.
But
there was an interesting thing also.
Oh, is this a fact check that's going to tell me it? Oh no,
no, I wanted to find a thing because there's another quote he talks about with the Jacobins, where he says that, you know, like someone wrote to George Washington telling him about the Jacobin threat, and he's like, look, nobody knows more about the Jacobin threat than I, you know, because he was part and parcel to the Jacobins, and also the Jacobins were allied with the Huguenots. And there's a whole thing with the House of Orange and why the orange counties of California and Florida are so important, and why Disney wanted Orange County because it's sort of associated with the House of Orange, which is the Sophia Naturalization Act, and might connect to why they still have claim over the land until after the fall of the current royal family, right?
Well, you know, the Jacobin, you know, we're talking about Jacob Frank, right? Jacob Frank and the Sabbatean and the cult, basically they're all from the same origin. You know, the what do you call it? Did we talk about it in the last episode? You know, that book that was written about, you know, basically the ritual of getting rid of sins, right? What is it called? What's that book called? I don't know. Maybe it's too controversial. But
atonement's interesting. The idea that you don't just get rid of sin, you have to like pay for things, pay for karma, and so you can actually like shovel some other energy into that karma than your own, or you can make something else pay for it. Essentially, you can use a chicken to pay for your sins. Essentially,
yeah. You know. Also, I just kind of got into this this the part of Bible. It's hold on, I'm going to scroll up. It's the book of okay, I'm gonna get to that in a second.
And I've got a whole list of
here we go.
newspaper references to the Illuminati that tie not just that proofs of conspiracy, but all the way to modern day. It was constantly being written about. This is one of the newer ones, but
So
this is a really interesting one I found. 1922, where they're calling the Rosicrucians a modern day Illuminati because they're drinking wine to honor Bacchus.
Right.
Well, who doesn't do that? Though?
So you guys in the private chat, I just put a link to, I think it's a government website. You should check it, but it's the quote that I was referencing.
The one I was looking for,
Russell 1798,
yeah.
For many of their nefarious strange plan and doctrine and all, but never saw a book until you were pleased to send to me the same causes which have prevented me from acknowledging the receipt of the letter have prevented me from reading the book hitherto, namely the multiplicity of the matters which pressed me before and debilitated state in which left me after a severe fever have been removed. So allow me to add little more now than thanks for your kind wishes and favorable sense. See, it's like he's just saying thank you for reading your book. I wasn't really able to look at it at the time. I'm sorry.
He says, I have heard much of the nefarious and dangerous plan and doctrines of the Illuminati, but never saw the book until you were pleased to send it to me. So the same cause. He doesn't mention Jacob.
Yeah, like wouldn't you say this if you were trying to be polite to someone who's like, you really got to look into the Illuminati? You're like, no, I didn't. I kind of heard about it.
This can't be the same quote that I'm looking for, because he says in the quote that I'm talking about, he talks about Jacobinism. And he says that they're the same aim as the Illuminati because they look to separate people from their governments. Maybe I didn't find it, but yeah, I just assumed because wasn't it who wrote Proofs of a Conspiracy? Was that?
It was John Robinson. No,
John Robinson. So that's what I wanted to.
Who was? I think he was a preacher, like a pastor or something.
Yeah. This is it. This is the book. This is a great book, by the way. It's you got all these letters from Weishaupt and just like gives you a real sense of, what was presented in court and how, they determined that this was in fact a conspiracy and all that stuff.
And this was a direct reference, that sort of quote that we were mentioning before.
You want to zoom that in a bit more?
Can I? Yeah, I can. Yeah. This is that quote we were just talking about here. I have heard much of the nefarious, dangerous plan, doctrines of the Illuminati. When he says that that none of the lodges in this country are contaminated with the principles ascribed to the Society of the Illuminati, is a direct reference of how the Illuminati sort of was dissipating a little bit and then in turn infiltrating European lodges, mostly through France and then elsewhere. So it was a very real dynamic that was happening. But the main quote that Washington's referring to is just that, yeah, the Illuminati exists. Yeah, the Illuminati's infiltrating Freemasonry, but with Washington kind of having his thumb on the pulse of Freemasonry at the time, he was kind of like, don't worry, they haven't got here yet.
Right, which totally is contrary to what you're describing, although I guess that was later, but still, right?
I think it's too convenient. Look at it, 1776,
yeah.
Bavarian
He's like,
Illuminati,
don't worry about it. We have it under control, Mr. Durden.
Yeah, the founding of Weishaupt division, where it's only like 2 days before the Independence Day. I don't know, but you just look at it, the timing. You just know they know, they're well aware of each other's existence.
So this book was published in 1798. Am I standing reflected? Is that what it was? I guess. Whatever.
The Proofs of the Conspiracy. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
The book was published then, but the book was sort of like a collection of letters and correspondences, and it was a compendium of different materials.
Right.
I'm trying to find another example of when that actual Freemasonry broke down and started infiltrating other areas. I want to say it was like the Wilhelmsbad something other. I'll find it while we're talking.
Right. I think what's really important here is that you say that Freemasonry had all these sets of rules. And then you have, Weishaupt, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I don't know.
Weishaupt. Yeah.
Okay. So what we know that they're like, anyone can do this. You can infiltrate a group and tell them that you are the actual inner circle of the group. Right. And you can recruit members, but you make up whatever rules you want to. Like, that's like to what end? Like, it's weird because the way we talk about this, we're like, okay, you have this thing that happened in Europe. And it's very isolating. We're like, and that's the Illuminati. And so I've kind of taken it that when people talk about the Illuminati in the context of today, it's whatever people are doing this kind of formula, because this isn't something that I would imagine just happened once and that's the end of it, and he was found out. And what I mean, obviously that's what people are going to do, right?
What years were the Age of Enlightenment? I mean, well, did it cover the 1700s, or was
For
it like
me, it was like 2001, maybe 2002, and it continued.
Really?
No, it did. So the start of the Bavarian Illuminati was very much during, I guess, the height of the Age of Enlightenment, at least in terms of fighting back against the Jesuits, because that's specifically where the Bavarian Illuminati came from. But all the Bavarian Illuminati was doing, they were just recreating the same concept of all the other mystery schools, Freemasonry being one of them. So the Bavarian Illuminati started out by patterning themselves after Freemasonry, and then we're like, you nailed it, David, where they actually their entire pyramid scheme was just promising more and more levels and more esoteric and like arcane information, to the point where Adam Weishaupt would like you would get to degree 4 or 5, and he'd be like, oh no, we go up to like 70.
Right. And the OTO does that too.
Wow.
And Crowley talks about that. And so like, I don't know, like I think Leo Zagami is one of the few people that actually shows like real evidence, documented evidence for some of the levels that exist within the OTO. But at the same time, Crowley himself openly acknowledged that at certain points. You'll find it every so often where he talks about the secret levels of the OTO. And so it's like, of course they would do that, but then who the fuck is infiltrating the OTO and telling them that they're the real OTO? You know what I mean? Like, who's what?
Well, with the Bavarian Illuminati, it was all lies. Like the dude had never really made out that many degrees, and he was constantly in this weird secret society Ponzi scheme where he'd go and sign 20 people up because they figure, oh wow, the Bavarian Illuminati's got like 30 levels, and I'm only used to getting up to like 3 or 5 or 10 or whatever. So they'd sign up. And then he'd have his homeboy Baron von Nige, who was the second command, and be like, yo, I promised these dudes like 12 secret levels. I told them we were going to give them like all the Cagliostro's like secret recipes and the secret to like Arapelacarcelsus's sort of information. And Nige would look at him like, you dick, like, and now I got to write this stuff. So von Nige would just be writing stuff up, and then Weishaupt was the one out on the street like knocking on doors and like, hey ma'am, is your husband home? Let me tell you about this great system we've got here.
Did you believe in Jesus Christ? Knock on the door. But Weishaupt, he was a Jesuit, right? Or was he? Was
he trained? He was like a
Jesuit or
French court guy, and so the thing is, the Jesuits were popular, so he was good with the Jesuits, and the Jesuits were out of favor because after they tried to assassinate King John in Portugal, then Jesuit suppression began, and so you tried to move in with the Dominicans or with the Maristas, the Society of Mary, or with the Franciscans, the Greys instead of the Blacks, right? So, there was other groups, but the thing is that the Jesuits lost all their property, so it wasn't cool to be Jesuit, and so a lot of the people that were Jesuit even they couldn't just become Franciscans after that because they'd been too powerful. So a lot of those guys might have moved and joined men's lodges other places, and there was crisscross of Jesuits that had become Freemasons. And that seems like maybe one of the reasons why they said you had to be excommunicated to be a Freemason, so that they knew that you were ensured not part of the church, because it was like,
you're not going to put everybody on a stake and burn them.
Yeah, except for in certain circumstances where they needed somebody in, like the Order of the Pug, which we talked about before.
It's confusing with the Jesuit thing, because like it's like supposed to be a very monastic order, right? So like when it's supposed to be more strict than what the general Catholic Church.
I mean, strictness comes with responsibility. Like, so the more you have more responsibility as a Jesuit, you have to go to school for you have to have like a PhD,
right, but,
go to 20 years school, and you have to donate a bunch of your time to the public somehow. You know what I mean?
You guys read Peter Levenda, Sinister Forces stuff. So when he's talking about the group of the 9 or whatever that were involved in the Kennedy assassination, and that they were all bishops in their own church, that there was no congregation, like it's just bishops, and it's like obviously like this is a very convenient way for them to get together and literally conspire. But the thing is that like when I hear about the Jesuits, when people are talking about the Jesuits in the context of today, I'm like, that's such a, like, if you were going to pick a group to have people leave you alone, like in that way that Peter Levinda's describing. Like it would make sense that you would choose something that was very strict because you're like, oh well, you know, it's respectable, you know, but that's kind of it's convoluted though. Like it's like who it's respectable to.
Stuart says it pretty well though. Jesuits are not a monastic order; they were formed as the Pope's Marines, and so part of the deal is after the Templars lost and had to go to Scotland, you know, after Friday the 13th, there's books that still end up, and Ignatius Loyola is lying in bed after some crusade. I forget if it was against the Bogomils or the Muslims, but he, you know, it's not one of the earlier crusades, and he's like lying there with his legs stretched out because now he's trying to stretch his own leg, so he's hurting himself more, you know. And he's like, give me books on erotica and magic. And so like they try to find him stuff, so he gets the Song of Solomon, which is like, I don't know if you read that one, but it's sexy, it's pretty sexy. And I was talking to you and Junior recently, and he was going through it in Hebrew, and it shows how it says Muhammad a bunch because Muhammad means the sweet one, so it's constantly referring to my sweet one, Muhammad, all over and over again. But he's got also these magic books on what eventually becomes Ignatian method, and a lot of this is like Templar stuff that's been banned because a lot of these books you got like a bunch of stuff in a book. You know, you don't just buy a bunch of books. You get one book and it's got like sex, drugs, rock and roll, the Bible. There's like a little bit of everything in it. And so he's looking at these crazy books. He's like, we got to use this stuff. We should weaponize this magic. What if I created an order called the Order of Light? We'll call it the Illuminati, the Illuminatus. And then they say, the Pope says, I like it. Fight fire with fire and all that, but don't call it the Illuminati. How about call it the Jesus Society instead? And so they call it the Jesus Society.
That sounds like something the Pope would come up with.
It's
simple.
That's why it's the Jesuits. But if you really look at it, their symbol is for Esau, right? It's not for I and J and Esau. You know, so Esau. So you've got the brother Esau, and you've got the second blessing. So there's a lot going on with the Jesuits, I think.
Hey, can we look at a picture of Martin Sheen into fake blood or real blood or whatever, like being all emotional at the Jesuit celebration?
You guys, since you mentioned Andreas, since you mentioned
put Jesuit in there in the search, you know, something like that. Yeah. Oh, come on. Is it does it not? Oh, there it is. Him with the cross there. Is it small? But yeah, there's better pictures than that. That's just him standing there. But there's one where he's being extra emotional. You know.
Is that David Lynch to his left?
Andreas, so since you mentioned Muhammad, you know Baphomet originated from Muhammad, right? The word.
Huh. I can see it.
One of the theories. One of the theories.
The theories. So if you look at it, you know, the Templars and the Jesuits, they're studying the same entity.
Well, so the idea that they're studying the Kabbalah and that there's something that even Islam is hidden from that has to do with the sacred geometry, but Islam was very deeply ingrained the sacred geometry, so it's illegal essentially to make symbols beyond the sacred geometry. You're supposed to focus on God and not the personifications.
Yeah, there's no iconography, you know, that you gotta.
There's no drawings in the Zohar. So like the no representations. So like this depiction of the screen of the tree came around
like a Lisa Frank edition.
Oh yeah, that's true. That or Peter Max. It came out much later, you know. So like to see a visual of the Tree of Life is more of a medieval thing, from my understanding, than it is. Oh, Kabbalah Lisa Frank.
I was really hoping we'd find.
There's a Lisa Frank tarot deck actually. Which is, you know,
oh, that's useful. I can get
there's a whole tarot tableau.
It's like a banana.
My Little Pony edition.
Yeah, no, I had this whole working bit around Lisa Frank and Peter Max like being in a relationship, but she was with Thomas Kincaid, and then it was like Thomas was it was like, you know how they have like the VH1 like specials on like Remember the Stars or whatever this shit.
Dude.
I want to do something with Thomas Kincaid. I don't know if I told you guys about it, where it's just like people being interviewed talking about what it was like back in the day, like older people, just like, you know, like, oh, those were wild times. And Thomas, he'd just be like, I'm going to paint 8 paintings tonight. And we'd be like, Thomas, you can't paint 8 cottages in one night. That's crazy. And then he would just take out the Coke and he would be there. He'd just, you know, it's like, you know, yeah. Well, you know, but you know, they keep making excuses for him too. There's like all this fucked up stuff. They're like, sometimes if you look in the windows, you know, of those paintings, you can see little girls, you know, he had a weird thing, you know, but those were wild times, you know, where they keep excusing it because those were just the times. It's like Led Zeppelin or whatever, you know, you're just like, okay, dude.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Eddie, you were trying to show something a second ago. I'm sorry. Do you remember?
No, I was just talking about the Muhammad. But what are you talking about?
Oh yeah, well, just Muhammad's good. I mean, so it's interesting because of the Kabbalah and the Knights Templar connection to the Ignatius Loyola Jesuit staging, this kind of mind theater, looking at the Jesuits do a practice where you look at a Bible verse or a thing and you remote view it. You think about the different senses. You go through thinking about the smells in the room when Jesus is blessing this person, and they do it over and over again. And beforehand, they do like a prayer and invite God to make it easier for them to be there. Like, because your senses, because I think Ignatius Loyola, because he was in bed for months, he was using his imagination. He realized you could detach your senses from your physical body and just use your empathy sense. So it's kind of interesting because telepathy, mind control, I mean, a lot of these ideas of using your imagination for astral projection, those are like the earliest reasons why he thought it was so important to build this psychic military group. And he said, give me your sons and I'll turn them into men. Give me your boys and I'll turn them into men, you know, all that stuff. And also the Jesuits created liberation theology, this idea that they're going to create this world state where everyone is an altar boy and everyone's a father, right? So you're a father and an altar boy, but everyone's a mother because they're all nuns, but nobody, like, so we're all one family, right? Is the idea, but there's no one who's responsible, like a singular. So it's breaking every family nucleus.
It's all surrogacy, you know?
Yeah.
Transhuman movement is all about surrogacy.
But the Jesuits can move into a country and they can change the entire population. Look at Paraguay, look at Argentina, look at anywhere that it's like a completely new creation, you know?
Are we suggesting that Hal Craig's postulation, and the only book that I know of that he published about the birth of Islam, is not entirely accurate?
I mean, I don't know. I think that's more accurate than people realize. I mean, you should see Ewan's talk. Like, Muhammad's more and more interesting, and I think that Islam changed a lot hundreds of years after he died, probably 200 to 300 years after he died. You know, they created a religion based on him that's really different, and there were wars because it broke away from the Catholic Church, essentially. Like, the Catholic Church became itself by killing off anybody who wasn't going to stay with them.
I forget who it started. There was like one leader. I think am I crazy, or was it just like the 60s or the 70s where there was like, where they had the first, like, the kamikaze type shot. I'm not talking
like
about
Saeed Qutb or whatever.
Yeah, no. Is this it?
Qutb was one of them. He was a
It was like they got really radical all of a sudden, and then people kind of just associated Islam with this particular kind of suicide bombing type shit.
Right. Well, there is violent, like, so you look at like Islam, Iman, I forget which, like the Ali school, but some of the groups around the 6th, 7th century, supposedly. So maybe 200
right. People are always violent. I'm just talking about this kind of like this particular way in which we see it now from Islam is like kind of specialized. Like that's there
might have been a point though in the last like 200 years where Islam became there's certain places where there was more liberalism and Islam emerged in liberal places. And then it spread to other places, which were culturally less liberal, I guess you could say. And then those places have been pushing Islam because Islam kind of dissipated and was replaced by other thoughts, like Manichaeism was even becoming popular in parts of Persia. And then it was pushed back in, and they forced the Persians in Iran to become, as you know, they've made them more Muslim than they ever were, or this new kind of authoritarian Islam that emerged from outside back in. You know, it's like an echo feedback loop that kind of just.
Somebody says that Muhammad has syphilis. I think he was Sisyphus.
It was Hitler that had, yeah.
Okay.
one must imagine having syphilis and being happy.
I have too many desires.
JFK too.
God. Well, okay. Are we gonna try
They
to do
said that
some?
about
That's why they
Nietzsche,
all
or was
love
that
meth,
gangrene? What the fuck?
I know it's like-
I wanted to
Yeah.
mention just to wrap up that thought because I found it. It was called the Convent of Wilhelmsbad, and so
Ooh.
basically, 1782 they pull together the Illuminati and a whole bunch of different Freemason
Wilhelmsbad,
groups.
like instead of Baghdad or Bagberg, it's Wilhelmsbad. So there you go.
Wilhelmsbad. So and the basically it was like all of the top Freemasons across Europe all got together along with representatives from I guess like the Holy Roman See, they actually were there too. They all get together and they're like, look, you guys, you've got too many different versions of Freemasonry growing out there. You've got these Illuminati that are popping up. They had the German mystics, the Martinists, and they were all sort of aiming at the same thing. So the result of this particular meeting was sort of groundbreaking. So it was there's going to be these 3 Blue Lodge degrees across the board. This is like a standardization where we're all going to agree Freemasonry is going to be at least these 3 degrees. They at this time is where they renounced the Templar connections, a lot because of these connections to Islam and the connections to like Baphomet and some of the other sort of spicy accusations that was made against the Templar, which is ironic because now today, especially in like the Blue Lodge degrees, they love to point all of their roots back to the original Templars. And then
Well, of course they do.
They basically put a cap on the degrees here too, because outside the Scottish Rite, I think they had like a very limited system of degrees. It went up to like 7 degrees or something. I had it here. The rite of strict observance was like basically the main master lodge. So it went from apprentice all the way up to lay brother. And then after
I like
you get
Scott
to the 7
Master because
degrees,
when I saw Scott Master, I thought Scoutmaster. And I was just like, that's so good.
honestly, I mean, that
real,
connection exists. You know,
no, for real, it's true. Is that there's a direct connection with the Boy Scouts and Freemasonry? Like it's because it's all the stuff before you build the house. How can and not just like in any other like you
Dude,
build
the Boy Scouts took me
structures
to
or
Scottish
whatever.
games one time.
those are the ruffians that are out in the wilderness, but before they get to meet King Solomon and help him build his temple. Well, I was going to mention that the tail end of this one is that outside of this convent of Wilhelmsbad, who they left out into the cold, were all of these guys that wanted those super high degrees, all the Illuminati degrees, all of the rites of Memphis and Mizraim, which they say came from like original Egyptian sources. And when it came over to America, that's when all the Masons were like, oh, there's no one here to regulate. Like that Wilhelmsbad was, over 100 years ago, 200 years ago. Let's start going door to door and telling people. And like one guy would knock on the door and be like, hey, join our Freemason lodge. We go up to 30 degrees. And then the next guy would come by and be like, well, what would that guy say? Oh, 30? Oh, no, we go up to 31. And like everyone would just keep like upping that. And that's essentially where Albert Pike gets most of his credibility in Scottish Rite, was that he's the one that decided to standardize all this and say, no, it's going to go up to 32 or 33, and then kind of reinforce that throughout the whole southern jurisdiction. And then that eventually made its way to the northern jurisdiction, which took a little bit longer. But it all starts here at Convent Wilhelmsbad.
Thomas, I'm interested in your thoughts at some point on I want to point you in the direction of a book from Sync Book Press called The Secret War Within Freemasonry. I believe it's by Frater X. We don't have that many books through Sync Book Press. I think we got like 10 or less, but
it's called The Secret War of Freemasonry.
The Secret War Within Freemasonry, inside Freemasonry,
Well, Frater X, isn't that what's his name? Mark. His real name?
After 7 years of active membership and infiltration.
Right. Yeah, I don't know. I have not read this book. I've read excerpts from it, but
I want to just imagine there's like a chapter in here about like Bob and John got into a fight over if there was going to be like mashed potatoes after lodge or if it was going to be Salisbury steak. Those are the kind of infightings that I've been witnessing.
These are the hot topics.
I see 1 star and 5 star.
If
Somebody's
they're
like
going to serve
super
Pepsi
upset.
or Diet Pepsi, that was like a huge thing one year.
Hey, have you guys heard of Bill Snowbelland?
Oh God, I love Bill. Yeah.
Oh, so
I've talked to him a few times, but he's super old now. So I want to get him on the show, but I think he's like 80. He's tired.
No, he's dying.
Oh,
he's very old.
yeah.
He's the first one that I learned, or he said that basically the Freemasonry go all the way up to 90 degrees.
This is the kind of guy
And
I listen to, and he's so like I don't give a damn whether he's telling the truth or a lie, because just
He's a
hearing him
great
talk
storyteller.
is just so much more important. Like just
So
hearing
It's
his voice.
Gonzo, man. That's his
Well,
experience, you know.
Yeah,
But the thing is that
I kind of think
book,
it's true. Is the worst part of it. Keep going.
What's the name of his book? The Confessions of a Vampire. Basically, he's saying that he was drinking blood. He reached 90 degrees.
Yeah, well, I
of
mean,
Freemasonry.
how many people?
He's still
I
drinking
lived in
blood.
Minnesota, and he's from Wisconsin. Let me tell you, everything about his story makes plenty sense to me. There's some people like that, and he lived in Ohio. Oh God, you know Ave Satana. So I looked into Ave Satana. The oldest satanic church is in Ohio. I was always creeped out by Ohio, and he starts going into this story about how Ohio freaks him out, and I'm like, yeah, you're not wrong. I don't know. Love you all from Ohio. I kid Ohio.
Ohio.
Whenever
is
someone
really-
mentions those 90 degrees, that's a dead giveaway. They're talking about the rights of Memphis Mizraim.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Somebody
that
says
is-
Freeman Fly's friend. Is he friends with Freeman Fly?
He invited him. He did a show with him. Yeah, he did.
Okay.
Well,
He was a
that
guest
was
on the show.
that was when Freeman was still doing the local TV, whatever, the Portland TV.
Here's a guy who's scared to death that if he doesn't spend every day trying to redeem himself for the John Constantine movie that his life was, that he's going to get pulled into hell by an octopus, or Yale. Sorry. Could have been a sink.
Man. But yeah, so you guys know this guy. So yeah, but it's
No, he's
pretty
rad though.
fascinating.
I recommend people to listen to his conversations, because some of the stuff he talks about and how it works. I mean, I think there's a little bit of truth here. I'd say at least a little bit. What do you guys think about
This guy, I feel like I remember from a long time ago, and
yeah, I mean, it's
old
Christian
school.
Prophecy Club thing too, because I was like, okay,
This
the
is where
Prophecy
Fritz
Club's
Springmeier got his start. There was some Ted Gunderson talks on this show.
Yeah,
This was
it's
an
all the big
awesome show
names, yeah.
for conspiracy theorists.
That's the thing. Yeah, it's just really entertaining, and so I always am hesitant to just buy into entertaining things.
Right. I feel that way about David Icke. And then
Yeah,
looking
it's on
at
that
David
level.
Icke's background, that like he was so involved with the Lucis Trust, or at least it feels to me that he just read all those books. Like, I don't know if he ever was even like directly involved with Lucis Trust. Like, I would actually be surprised if he was, beyond just being fixated on it when he was young,
David Icke.
Yeah, his
Well,
first two, David Icke's first two books are all about Lucis Trust, and those are really hard to find.
He's very good at organizing his thoughts. I mean, when he talked to Jordan Maxwell was his mentor for a while, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Oh God, have
know-
you guys seen Tetris yet? So I just watched the Tetris movie, and it's all about Robert Maxwell and Jordan Maxwell, and they don't even mention Epstein or Glenn Maxwell once. But the new Tetris movie, where they're trying, because it's a Japanese video game handheld that's going to be sold to American kids, that features the Soviets' most important game, and just all of the international espionage that was necessary to do that. And it all centers around Robert Maxwell, because he had Mirasoft was the name of the company, right? And so he'd scammed the hell out of the Soviet Union and said, hey, we're going to trade you encyclopedias for intellectual property for intellectual property, because otherwise the Soviet Union will collapse, communism will die. And they're like, communism is dying. And Gorbachev was like, we need the best money deal we can get. And it just also, there was no money that Robert Maxwell had, because he'd been stealing it all from the pensioners' funds from the Labor Party. So yeah, it ended up being this pretty well. You got to see the Tetris movie, actually. It's worth doing.
It just came out.
Yeah, it's like Apple TV, I think.
Oh shoot!
So there's a Ghislaine Maxwell connection to Tetris. That's I never knew that. That's crazy.
Yeah, well,
That is crazy.
there's a weirder thing there too, which is like Excite. So when I was a kid, my screen name used to be 2000, because I knew that year was going to be cool when we got there. And also back then, you could have a screen name that was literally just 2000. Like you could have a short screen name. I think it was long ago, but it was on Excite, and Excite was freaking amazing. Excite Chat changed the world, and it was forgotten. Oh, moderate search, thank God. Excite got calm, maybe nothing. Okay, so this is what it looked like back in like 91 to 4, right at the very beginning. And you'd walk into a chat room, and everyone's avatar would be there, and the words would be popping up on the screen. And eventually they got it to like look like rooms, so you were like walking around a room in Tokyo and stuff like that. This is decades ago. Way better than any of the chat room stuff that anyone's using right now. And you still had your list of stuff. And this is so simple. And like, imagine what you could do today that they're not doing really. But this was okay. I bring it all up because excite.com was, God, does it still exist?
You know, it's funny. Recently, I heard something that it was connected to a sex cult. I don't know.
I
don't know. I gotta look it up because I like 2-3
No, that was
days ago.
FEMA.
I have seen conspiracy theories on the Excite logo that's the all-seeing eye there on the top of the X with the little eyelashes.
That's super based. I was always really excited by Excite. I'll say.
I'm not joking about FEMA, by the way. That's
what
heavy
do you mean by
duty
it?
insider info. FEMA's got a whole fucking sex ring thing going on with all their higher ups.
You mean the deep underground stuff? Like
It's not that deep. It's
FEMA. I'm scared to look for. Oh, see,
I
you
don't know if
shouldn't
you're
even
gonna
type FEMA sex ring.
Yeah. No.
Thanks, David. Send me
No,
a
no.
link when you find it.
No, I did an interview with somebody who worked for FEMA a long time ago, and they had nothing but good things to say about FEMA for years. And then
sure, 'cause they have a
some
sex
things
party,
became apparent big time, and there's no question. So I can say that I can make that accusation confidently.
Antarctica has a sex parties with McMurdo Base, and we know somebody who was delivering condoms for the army to McMurdo Base. Like you go through a lot of condoms, and I was like, really? Like, I mean, like more than you'd think possible, like thousands. You're like, what's going on?
After hearing all these whistleblowers talking about the sex code with the little children and this and that, like everything's underground, everything's deep in the tunnels. I mean, FEMA is all about these deep tunnel networks.
Well, there's the party, and then there's like the real party, as they would say. So like
after everyone else goes home.
Studio 54 had several doors. You had to get through
the
before you got past the goat room.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is that you can have mansions where people are seeing a big party happening, but there's another party happening simultaneously behind the scenes or after hours, whatever the fuck. But yeah, they're just the places are so big they can just do that. So that, and then it gives them a sense of elitism around that too. It's like, this is where the real VIP bring out the goat or whatever the fuck. Yeah.
But Isabel Maxwell, who, let's see, Robert Maxwell's her father, Christine Maxwell, Ghislaine Maxwell, Kevin Maxwell, Ian Maxwell, all the brothers and sister, French-born entrepreneur, co-founder of Magellan. Magellan was the search engine that was acquired by Excite, and so World Economic Forum, Techno Pioneer, ComTouch, part of Siren, the Israeli internet company, Siren, which is a cyber security service system run by former Black Cube Intelligence, which is pretty crazy, and also has a headquarters in McLean, Virginia, actually.
Robert Maxwell, he was MI6, wasn't he?
He was definitely part of Mossad, and so
well, that too, of course, yeah.
Hey, did you guys have this thing happen to you ever on like LSD or something where you just started thinking about sirens and the fact that like a mermaid, like a siren, like sings like it's in like the Rainbow Connection, like she calls out to the young sailor and then pulls him down, like kissing him, like takes his breath away or whatever, and then like that when you hear a police siren, it's like they just like
come and they kneel on your back and then like take your breath away,
yeah, and then like 9/11 being like, when you think of a siren, you think of red and blue, and then there's like the two pillars of the red and the blue and all of that. You know what I'm saying? Like
9/11 is all about 9/11 is all about Neptune and the trident. The tuning fork of the building, right? Well,
dude, that's what they called it. The remaining sort of pillars were called the tridents, right?
Yeah. The support beams, yeah. And I made a whole post about that.
Dude, this one's actually really fascinating because when I looked into it, Neptune was a late addition to the pantheon, and he actually didn't originally come from being a water god. They basically gave him the trident first, and then they retrofitted him. Or like, you're going to take over command of the water, and you can tell this because the original story, when he's given the trident, it's before he has command over the water. So that it like started with the archetype, and then they fit him to like a different god's domain.
So Kabbalistically, you'd say that the letter Shin relates to the bottom of the tree extending from Malkut as it exists in, before the world that is to come, before Shekinah, Malkut is reunited with Ze'er on Ping, the Tiferet. But it's interesting because that's fire, because you have the three mother letters. You have Aleph, which is air, Mem, which is water, and Shin, which is fire. But it looks like a trident. That's just, I don't know, interesting.
Hey, you know what? I made another post recently regarding this one of the most expensive mansion in Italy. Jeez, I trying to find it.
Yikes.
Basically, the owner. He's the 11th grandson of the Pope Gregory, right? The Pope who invented the Gregorian calendar.
Oh, so it's Croatian. Nice.
Yeah, well, hold on. Let me see if I can find the article. Jeez, but I try to bring it up because they're trying to sell, trying to get rid of the house because the father died, and they're trying to kick out the wife who was a Texan. I don't know if she's a stripper or not. Well, Playboy model. But hold on, but I'm trying to look up the article. I can't because I'm bad with names. Hold on.
Good job, Croatian
Are you
Pope.
talking about Gregory the First from 590?
Yeah. Well, hold on one second.
Nice.
Okay, you guys keep talking. I look up this.
So I did like a deep dive on all the popes because I guess that was just like a very fun topic.
Oh yeah, dude. There's like a 12-year-old pope. There's black popes. You know what I mean?
So I've got a list on Gregory. He wasn't the most exceptional of all of them, but he was known as the father of Christian worship.
Yeah, he was chill.
Because of he basically revised the Roman Catholic practice during the Byzantine rites.
He was isolated. A lot of people were living in Rome who had, not been allowed in Istanbul or Constantinople. He was in the Dalmatian coast. He was not part of the mafia, so they knew that it was kind of a safe bet that they wouldn't kill each other because he was removed from the situation. And he liked to study books, and he's like, hey, you know what? We don't really have like a consensus on which books. I don't know which books you guys like. These are my favorite. Everyone's like, good, go. And they're like, wait, what? And that just became kind of the Bible compendium, his stack, And
a cool story for Gregory here was that he was so dedicated to that, the aesthetic of poverty and, not lusting after riches, that there's this story that there was a monk lying on his deathbed, and the guy had stolen 3 gold pieces in his life, and then Gregory, to punish him, forced the monk to die alone, and then on his dead body he threw coins and manure, and he told him, take your money with you to perdition, and he wanted him to just rot with the manure and the gold coins.
Hey,
that's
Thomas,
cool stuff, man.
I got a question for you. You know that whole thing where they say like the coins of the Templars that they're like sharing a horse because they couldn't afford 2 horses? That's the story. Were they really poor, or is that just bullshit?
Well, just look
I
at
think it was bullshit. They were bankers, dude.
Right? That's the thing. But it's like that. That's another example of that thing where something's projected that way.
Here's the thing: it's like if there were the true originators of fractional reserve banking on an international balance, like the first international bankers, right? But what are like international conglomerates good at doing is saying like, oh, we didn't make any money, so we don't have to pay any taxes. Look at all these costs. We're actually operating at a net,
I
loss
never
here.
heard that story that they had to share one horse.
It's the explanation for their coins, because they had like the fish, like Templar coins had a horse with 2 guys on it. Yeah, and I was like, well, that's kind of gay. And then I'm like, I was like, why are there 2 guys on the horse? And that's what I found was like the explanation was that they
apparently didn't own anything. You'd have to donate everything you owned in order to become under the protection of the Templars, or if you wanted to join them, you'd have to give them everything. So technically, since I gave everything I owned up to like the greater organization, I myself am poor, but the organization itself is like beyond wealth.
Hey, is there a connection? I just
wait. What were you going to say, Eddie?
I'm sorry. Can you look up the Rosalind Chapel?
Yeah, a couple of
that symbols all over Rosalind Chapel. The 2 knights sharing the horse.
Oh, you know who that is, by the way? It's what the heck is his name again? Apprentice
Dan Brown. He wrote about it. But basically, I don't know.
Master William of Cardona and his successors depicted a knight on horseback carrying a lance and shield, on which was a cross bearing the legend Mistri Templi. And so it's supposed to be the Aragon and Catalonian princes or something like that. So I think it's like a guy and his apprentice or his brother. But here's the Rosalind Chapel.
Yeah, so that symbol,
I don't know where I'd find the symbol though.
It's pretty prominent. So this conspiracy about that, they're saying basically it's a ritual of the origin of the riding the goat ritual.
riding the goat ritual? What do you say?
Well, they're basically getting getting blindfolded and then I don't know. But that's one of those crazy Masonic conspiracies.
Is it Masonic or is it is it like the fraternity thing? Is like, does that have deeper origins than like colleges? Just I don't know.
Yeah,
you guys saw that movie Goat?
Oh, okay, so the rule forbids two riders on the same beast. So the thing is, it shows people breaking the rules.
You can share my horse.
And they were also known as the poor fellow soldiers of Christ. So like like being poor was in their name, but I think it was like a smokescreen. Like that was a question, right? I think it was a smokescreen. Right. It was
totally,
like,
man.
It's a contemporary legend holds the symbol representing the initial poverty of the order. They could not afford only a single horse for every 2 men. Still, the rule of the order from the outset permitted 3 horses and no more for each knight. As well, no Templars sharing the same horse. Several masters adopted this seal from the beginning of the order, at least until 1298. It is known to have been in use since 1167. The rule forbids 2 riders on the same beast. According to legend, Hugh de Palm, the first Grand Master, and Godfrey were so poor that between the two of them, they had only 1 horse. Okay, so that's interesting, is Hugh and Godfrey. So we have to look into these guys and what their
is he related to Gilbert?
Right. Hugh de Pons and then Godfrey. If I type in,
there's a problem child sinking here somewhere.
right. Totally. Can I just say, like, there's the Friday the 13th thing with the Templars. They were the order to kill, burn, bunch of Templars came on Friday the 13th. Whatever. Is there a connection with Jason in the Friday the 13th series? Like Jason in the first place. Like if you spell that out, what is it? July, August, September, October, November. Jason.
I never heard that.
And awesome. So, like, I don't know. I've kind of felt like there's something to like subtext in Friday the 13th, whether even like unconscious or not. Like, it feels like there's some crazy symbolism in just the format of each scenario. Also that it turns out to be his mom at the end. I don't know. Does this have esoteric significance that I'm missing?
I mean, 13 is important for a lot of reasons. Donald Duck, Daffy Duck.
No, I think it has a lot to do with the Argonauts, right? The Jason and Argonauts, the Golden Fleece, and I don't know. Also, the Jason Society, the Have you guys heard of the Jason
that
Society?
Sounds familiar. What is it?
It's kind of like a parallel group to the MJ12, the Majestic 12.
Oh,
I don't
great
know.
After Sputnik.
Yeah,
this is great after Sputnik. Yeah,
after Sputnik, right? So, but
run through the Mitra company. Who's the Mitra?
Oh, it was a reference to Jason from mythology too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just saying Jason the Argonauts. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So basically, the Argonauts. Oh my god, I made these posts.
I don't get the connection exactly though. Is it because Friday the 13th they're fighting their demons? They're fighting dreams or something. What is it again? Or is it because they're lustful?
Yeah. Are you talking about are we talking about the movie series, or are we talking about okay?
Just because you were saying you connected to the movie series, right?
No, I'm just saying, like, it's one of those things where I've felt for a long time like there's some crazy subtext going on with Friday the 13th. Like, I wanted to think that about Nightmare on Elm Street because John F. Kennedy was killed on Elm Street, but that was also where his film school was. Wes Craven's film school was on Elm Street, so I'm like, I really wanted it to be about like unconscious nightmare shit having to do, but I don't know. It feels like there's something there. Kills teenagers just trying to have a good time. We're the Templars, teenagers trying to have a good time. Like, I don't know. It's like
hockey mask. I mean, everything's a symbol if you look at it.
I know
the Templars were like Wall Street traders with swords and horses.
Well, they had interest, right? That was a big thing.
The Halloween mask
they developed the idea of interest.
The Michael mask came from. This is actually
William Shatner.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, William Shatner. The whole story was just so ridiculous. I mean, like they couldn't find a mask to put it on.
I think it means something. There's no way that's an accident, right? Because what could be scarier than William Shatner wearing a William Shatner mask so that he could get away with whatever he was doing? Basically, that guy could. I don't know.
And there's a Poseidon sink there too. We were just talking about the Trinity or the
Neptune.
Yeah, Neptune.
What was the sink? Oh. Yeah. What about, so I don't know if this matters to anybody. I was thinking about eventually covering Tucker and
well, you know what?
lemon.
Before, sorry.
Yeah.
And can you
Okay.
look into? I dropped this like a couple of minutes ago in the mailbox. So I was just trying to get to the Pope Gregory story. Yeah. So that's my tweet. But basically, she made headline. You see the woman who's sitting. She's a Texan Playboy model that he ended up marrying. So this guy, he's actually a prince, Prince Niccolo. Boncampani, whatever his name is. So he's the 11th great grandson of Pope Gregory VIII, who
Nice.
implemented the Gregorian calendar. So she's getting evicted out of this huge mansion. This mansion is listed at $500 million. But of course, there's no buyer, so they keep like slashing the price.
Wait, that's not RFK Jr.'s like wife from Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Cheryl Hines.
Sure.
Kind of looks like him. But if you look at the ceiling, there's one of the most famous part of the mansion is the ceiling painted by this artist. What's his name? He's a famous Italian painter, and but it portrayed Poseidon.
Wow.
And also Zeus in the form of the eagle. And look at the painting. So we talk about what's his name?
Cerebus. Or is that how you say it?
The moon. The boy. No. Getting to the.
That's right.
This poster was basically a Budweiser sink. You know, we're talking about
Ganymede.
Andreas, right? Yeah, Ganymede.
Who showed me
Ganymede.
that though originally? Wasn't that Thomas that originally showed me that? No.
I can't take credit for that. Someone else had brought that up. I
Yeah.
thought it was David.
Oh my god.
Yeah,
Who
so-
told us that? Someone who's watching
What's
the
that?
show. Who brought up Ganymede?
I think David's the one that brought up
Oh, I did. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
okay,
it was
okay.
like the Budweiser
Oh
advertising
my god, I've been
campaign
showing
to-
people
towards gay
that.
people.
I've been showing some people like, dude, you don't get it. No, it's always been. No, I'm serious. Look.
Yeah. So
They're like, oh my god. Yeah.
yeah. So
Plus
so
the ice cream thing.
He's
Yeah.
a cup holder. You know what I mean? The cup holder. You know.
And when the prohibition happened, and Anheuser-Busch sold ice cream, it was like
Yeah.
it was their whole product switched to ice cream for the whole time. So Budweiser was like ice cream trucks. You know what I mean? Like it's the whole thing. I don't know.
Trying to
Keep
get
going.
the kids, you know.
Yeah.
but so going back to the
cupbearers.
painting. So that was the first painting I actually saw that Zeus is depicted as an eagle. So that was pretty fascinating that this woman, you know, just around the same time Budweiser controversy, all of a sudden this woman is being evicted out of her own house because of the kids want to the widow has to get out. You know,
He
because,
turned himself into a lot of animals to get laid, right? He was like a
he's into
swan
that.
or
I
some
think he just
shit.
liked to do that though. It's
Yeah.
like Rick and Morty or something.
I'm still missing the Zeus story about a duck that has the ballistic penis that looks like the corkscrew.
well,
Oh.
ducks got the longest penis in the world. Don't
I
you
know
There's-
that because
there's the
of
Leda
Isabella
Swan,
Rossellini's
right?
green porno.
Is the swan good
Facial
enough?
to the body length.
I feel like when he becomes a swan, that's pretty much it, right? Like, does that count?
Do
Like-
swans
like
have
duck-
ballistic peni?
I
If-
don't
if-
hang
if
out
a
with a lot
duck-
of swan.
If a duck is a human, the duck would have like a yard long or a football length.
I
Yeah.
have a swan-like neck. It's one of my best features out of many, many good features.
That's a wild. I don't know. So there's a lot of myths like that. I guess that's pretty wild. I don't know.
What's so
I
erotic
can't believe the
about
kind of stuff I
swans?
get to put on Synctank. Like this is okay, but this like the moderate searches. Whoa, this is a statue, Botero. God, Botero even. I don't know. This is
I
pretty
don't
wild
know,
stuff.
man.
Okay, I feel slightly better. Does anybody want to talk about Lemon and Tucker, or does no one care?
Yeah, I want to talk about
The
it.
only reason I wanted to talk was because you guys are here. I wouldn't care otherwise. But the idea of
Within an hour.
the synchronicity of that they, you've got the dark side, the light side,
Yeah, it seems like there's a lot of things you could say about it, but it seems like it at least indicates like what we should all know anyway, that when you're looking at these networks that are supposed to be so, on different, they're the different sides of the aisle, for there to be a strategic move between the two of them within an hour, that's so significant. And like these are their top people. Tucker's the top selling show on television, the most viewed show on television.
right.
So
What does
it's-
that mean anymore? It's like the most selling cassette.
Right.
tape
What
of
is it? I
mariachi
think
music,
Joe Rogan has 11 times the viewership, or am I tripping? Is it that much? I forget what it is.
Hey, Andreas, it's funny because I was about to bring up a link between Rupert Murdoch and Robert Maxwell, because when you show Robert Maxwell, I was about to show you that Rupert Murdoch was his nemesis. They were trying to kill each other. You look at a handshake. Look at the handshake. Look.
Yeah.
Scroll down. Look at a handshake. Look at a handshake.
Ooh, something's
Look at
in
a
the pocket.
Look at
That pocket
it's pretty
look
firm
too.
grip right there. I tell you that.
Well, with
But,
the thumb and everything. I mean, the inside link.
And the guy in the middle.
And the hidden hand. I mean, I don't know. I always figure that if anybody wanted him dead, naked, outside of his own boat, besides the entirety of the Labour Party and most of the world at that point, it could have been Rupert Murdoch. But there's a long list of people
that
that
is
wanted him
definitely what you would call the pass grip of a master mason, though, which is defined as taking hold of another's hand and pressing the top of your thumb against the space between the second and third knuckle. That is the exact definition of the pass grip of a master mason.
I thought it's on the knuckle. Oh, it is between the space. Okay.
Yep. Yeah.
So these guys, they wanted to kill each other, but sometimes I think it's pretty much. They're working.
This is how I think like Jordan Maxwell, where he always talks about like two lawyers in a court and how they're just like volleying, like a ball back and forth, like you would in a basketball court, and that the two teammates on opposing teams on a basketball court, when you're watching the game, they're like arch rivals. That they're completely against each other in every way. But as soon as that last shot calls and the game's over, they're more likely to go to the bar and have drinks with each other than they are to go and have a drink with their fans, right? Because they have way more to relate to each other. So yeah, like you might act like you want to kill the other person in this public sphere when you're in court, but off court, it's like you're just kicking back and smoking cigars. And,
you heard Jesse Ventura go off on how relatable politics was to Worldwide Wrestling Federation. Like he's like, no, it's literally like that,
Same.
I'm gonna take you and I'm gonna change this whole town. Rah! And then
I show you a sexual tyrannosaurus.
Hey, have you guys seen Fear and Loathing in Aspen, written and directed by RFK the Third?
Did not watch it yet, but I've been meaning to. It's on my list about how Hunter S. Thompson runs to be.
RFK is going to run for president now, huh?
Really?
RFK Jr.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that debate.
I'm expecting another
government. We're either running for president or running from the president. I think that's where we're at.
So for them to drop both Tucker and Lemon, like just revenue and all the issues and everything, it has to indicate that we're headed towards something that they just do not want any possibility of interference with the narrative from a.
And they don't want anyone that they can. I think it's that they don't want anyone who remembers last election involved. Like this is all new press for the new election, and that anyone who there remembers the old election is going to interfere with the new election.
I don't know if this ties in, but Nate Silver's out at ABC too, who was that was the 538 guy that would do all of the big predictions for ABC.
So so all this time, Rupert Murdoch, who owns Fox. Well, I never thought of him as like conservative or it's all.
Well, he's elite. He's an elite.
Right. Well, the context of Rupert. So there's places in the world that he just can't visit. He's arrested immediately for money laundering shit. Which is also Bill Gates has places in the world apparently that he can't visit or he's arrested on upon landing or whatever. They're like Roman Polanski, but for other countries. But the story of the Star. So it was that the paper wasn't selling. It wasn't a big paper in the UK. And they basically just fabricated they manipulated a story just like we would see in like what is that, US Weekly or whatever, like the spoof shit. But it was before then taken as like a legitimate paper, even though it wasn't widely read. But I guess this one issue sold like fucking crazy. And even though they later had to admit that it was made up, they realized that they were just making so much damn money anyway. And then that the Star began putting pictures of a naked woman on the front of every issue. And it was always the same picture. And I believe she was just topless. And I think the idea was, a lot of the things like I'm saying tonight, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the idea is that they're saying like a lesser version of like what Hustler ended up doing, where they're like, look, if we can show you this crazy sexual shit, we can say what we want to. So that's why actually, to be frank, like Hustler has some of the best articles of like any magazine in the last
Playboy
years,
too.
I didn't even know they had pictures. I just
Playboy
read articles.
right. But they had always have this picture of a naked woman in the front page of the first, when you open it up, the first page of the Star. as some kind of statement of like freedom of speech, freedom of image, I guess. But yeah, it's weird.
You know what? Rupert Murdoch, he's a weird person because remember his ex-wife Wendy Deng, that Chinese woman, and then when they were married, and Tony Blair was invited to their house. Remember that incident?
Yeah.
That Tony Blair, that when he was still prime minister, Rupert Murdoch left the house, and then Wendy Deng had an affair with Tony Blair inside his own house.
Of course, it was the Tony Blair Witch Project.
But
which is actually Polanski's ghostwriter. That's basically what that is. But anyway.
Oh yeah.
When Tony Blair admitted that when he got up in the morning, he would do a magic circle and step in and out of it every single morning. So he absolutely believed in occult practices.
You know what it is? I think they were doing Babylon working at his mansion. That's what happened. He's like, hey, take my wife, please. And do it. Just go for it. Draw a circle and let
it's also a cruise ship stand-up routine. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised at all. I mean, but
you guys know about the. Oh, I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say the idea that that everything's changing because TV's dying, and so for the left, a lot of people had isolated themselves with Facebook, so they couldn't access information. I think that's what we're moving towards for the next election is less misinformation and more lack of information. Like more people will be unaware.
Right. Less Orwell, more Huxley.
Yeah.
Or strike that, reverse it. Yeah.
Can I talk about Trump's recent appearance on the what's that podcast? Geez, that young guy, what's his name? But did I show you that?
I don't remember what the link is though. But yeah.
So he was talking about Taiwan. He was talking about war with Taiwan because about the microchips of Taiwan. He basically said it very clear why Taiwan is about to be the importance of Taiwan to the U.S. When China is about to invade. What is a full? What's that podcast called? Oh my God, full...
Hey, how come you're like the only person, Eddie, that I hear talking about when Taiwan comes up that's immediately emphasizing the microchip thing? Is it because you're Asian that you're just hip to it, or is that?
I'm just trying to say I say that before Trump. I took the stake. I'm taking credit. But
they are talking about that's why the war. Yeah. That's why the war hasn't happened a lot of time because they keep saying they're going to finish in North Carolina and Texas these new microchip factories so that America could go to war. But it's like if America loses Taiwan to China, so right now it's like Switzerland because without Taiwan, America and China can't exist. It's kind of this weird. It's the opposite of a nuke, because we have this idea that it's mutually assured destruction. But not having access to microchips has become mutually assured destruction.
Okay,
right.
Well, I'm just dropping the screenshot here. I can't find the...
But we're going to start manufacturing a lot of microchips in the United States in the next 10 years. You'll be surprised how many. And I think it'll be interesting to see if China PRC will be able to compete because a lot of the stuff they're making is not very amazing right now. The PRC GPU is disgusting. It's just pathetic. I mean...
Okay, wait a second. Okay, I'm just dropping it right now. Where is the file desktop? Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay. All right, okay, I just said it. Yeah, you can look it up.
Chinese made PCI is just horrible. God, it's embarrassing. I shouldn't even try. All right, hold on.
Yeah, so so there's a whole the whole conversation. It's a 1 hour interview, full full send podcast. So he was just asking him. So what's so strategic important about Taiwan? And he said, well, it's basically the chips because that's what Trump was saying. The military, the U.S. military relies so much on Taiwanese microchips and semiconductors. He literally talked about the missiles. So we're talking about the ICBMs with Taiwanese chips. So, anyways.
I like he's being interviewed by a guy wearing a death row shirt. That's the coolest thing.
That's the thing, yeah. And a bunch of people said this was like a really weird interview, and I thought it must be like something significant, but I don't know anything about the Nelk Boys. Do you know anything about who this guy is?
No, they got famous through pranks. They're doing YouTube pranks, but then they took on this conservative stance. Basically, they only interview like conservative figures, and they they're fans of Andrew Tate too. So that speaks a lot. So
Oh,
I mean,
classic.
also they're from Ontario, Canada.
well, the guy who founded it, yeah, the guy we saw in the photo, he's from Canada. The
So
other
that's
guys
interesting.
are Americans. So it is very weird because there are a lot of these conservative talk shows, like say what's his name, the famous one. Yeah, they're mostly from Canada.
Yeah, seems like that is the deal.
Yeah. I don't know if they're trying to manipulate from the north, but anyways.
I would hope so. I don't know. I mean, so, I mean, I don't really have a lot of thoughts on the Tucker thing. I just was thinking, do you think there's anything esoteric about it? Just this idea also that by removing the symbols people are most familiar with, they're at the same time, like, what do you think is like the psychic value of this?
There could be other deals going on in the first place of like that we're basically phasing out television in the way that it's been. I mean, it's like, you know, it's mostly like older viewers that are still watching regular television, and so who knows what they could go to and what it'll be. You know, I could really see them both having their own platforms that exceed what they could ever achieve on television. So this could just be like a raise, basically. It's like you get fired, but it's free. I don't know. It's speculative, but
I'm about Lemon, but Tucker for sure, because he's just interesting to watch. But I mean, with do you think there's going to be a point when CNN, like, is it going to just try it? Because they tried to do the thing where they moved to the internet and that didn't work. So is CNN going to not make it over to the internet?
Right. Well, if this was OAN that was removing Tucker, I wouldn't think two shits about it, because I'd be like, oh, they share the same parent company, AT&T. But in this case, you're like, where's the connect? And I'm going to just step out on a limb and say the Illuminati. But the equivalent.
It's such an easy answer. It always makes sense.
You know what? You know, Hollywood's going to have his writers' strike next week. You know, May 1st. I wonder about these writers for news. You know, for Tucker and I don't know if they have their own union. You know, I don't know if the journalism have their own unions and the writers' union. So I have a feeling that these ghostwriters, you know, that you don't hear much about.
Doesn't it come just directly from the CIA, especially for Tucker?
I mean, it sounds unless he. Yeah,
that's the thing. I don't know, man. He seems like he's legitimately been breaking. He's been rocking the boat, the confines.
At least
of the boat
he's
that they put
failed at the CIA. He's not. I mean, like,
do you remember when he used to interview Maddow on he was on CNN. He was on Crossfire, right? And then he was on MSNBC.
Oh yeah, no. Crossfire is where he had that infamous interview with Jon Stewart, who made fun of his bow tie. And I like, totally killed the Tucker bow tie. It didn't happen again after that.
Dude, right. Somebody just typed. I learned today Tucker was a regular at Comet Ping Pong.
Yeah, well, that's reasonable. I mean, a lot of people went. I went to Comet Ping Pong. It's like it's a nice pizza place in DC. You know what I mean? So on top of
this sauce, you know what I'm saying?
Did you go?
They have walnut
shows after hours.
Yeah, they have
I've seen
really
the posters for them
and like stuff like that.
Let me put on my red shoes and dance.
But I've definitely been to some weird pizza places. I remember I was in Argentina and there was a whole thing with what the heck is it called? The Uzi or something. There's a kind of pizza place down there that definitely has the same situation where like the Pope used to come and play ping pong with kids, and it's like, this is the same story as like everything else I heard. What the hell's going on here?
Sure. You know, well, no, I talked to my friend's grandmother, and if I get the story right, it was that the old Pope used to go, like, he would just be around with his young consort, like, and everybody knew it. Everybody in the villages would see him with the young guy that they knew that he was, you know, like, it was knowledge, but they didn't publish shit on it, because just the same way, like, you can serve prison time for sampling the Queen or something. I mean, I think even now, like, they're really strict on that. Like, if you take the Queen's address,
you're talking about Benedict?
Which old Pope? Was it the previous Pope or the Pope before that? I forget, but yeah, no, she was like legit an older Italian lady, and she was like talking about just what was known, what people had witnessed with the Pope, and back when, you know, that it was just widely known that the Pope had a younger boy, like I think a teenager, that he would, you know. some young virile dude that he was just
like-
like the Pope's toy.
like Zeus, you know, he also needs like a cup bearer, right?
I mean, most of the popes always had, you know, and up until the pseudo-Esoteric decrees, they had families. So it seems like, of course, you got the most lecherous people that are gonna say, "Hey, this is great. I don't have to get married and have a family. I can do what I can live my dream." You know, and I think that's kind of the problem. It's a newer thing that was added to the church that wasn't always there. You know, but the popes for sure, every single one of them, you don't have to be married because you've got this whole bastard line. And then that's also
you've seen The Sound of Music and Zizek's interpretation of it, where he's basically like, you give up everything and you gain. Look at what you gain. Like it's like there's something
like
about
the Templars, bro. It's like the Templars.
Yeah,
right.
You gotta empty your cup to fill it, or you have to empty his cup to bear it, or some kind of pull.
And then it's very expensive to those who can't afford it and free to those who can. You know.
Yeah. What you got here? This is Big Brother Pizzeria.
Well, we were talking about Illuminati and pizza, and this is definitely the closest I've ever come. I didn't go to comment. This is in Peru. There was a place called Big Brother Pizza, which not only had an image of Shannon Doherty for some reason with the pizza, but also I got to sit directly behind this huge Tupac poster.
I have
when
a
I was
Shannon
eating
Doherty
my
post.
gui.
I have a Shannon Doherty sink that goes pretty well with that. I think. I don't know if it's that good,
please.
but just
Yeah.
I was gonna say that Roseanne Barr doesn't look. She's been looking worse and worse recently, doesn't she? I don't know.
Well, I mean, come on, she
And
wasn't looking
that's
so
mean.
great when in the '90s. You know,
I feel
mean,
bad now. No,
Yeah,
Roseanne Barr looks
looks
better
now than she did.
She looks better than Shannon
90s.
Doherty. That's right. I said it. Okay.
Do you remember when she did the national anthem? Do you remember like when it happened? Did you watch it as it happened?
Just
Anybody?
wanted. I wasn't alive, or I think was I? I don't know. I wasn't. I didn't watch.
I remember she got booed. She got booed for that.
Oh no! That was bad. And she's the way she spit and she did the whole thing. If you
And
try
she
and
was grabbing
find it
a
online,
clutch,
you can
right?
find recordings of
What
just
kind
the
of
audio,
pizza
and then you
did
can find like
Tucker
little.
Carlson eat on his last day? That was the thing. Tucker Carlson said, "All right, I got one day left. It's my last show." So he ordered delivery from his favorite pizza place, and he ordered pizza. He's like, "All right, well, if I can't talk about it on the show, I'll just eat pizza." Right?
You know,
What is he saying there?
Yeah, that's you just said what he's saying there. I'm pretty
You know
sure.
what? It's like the symbol of you're about to get busted. You know, look at Andrew Tate. He was busted because of a pizza box, right?
He wasn't really, but that's such a fun story that he was. Like it
What's it
feels like
called?
it really wants to be true because it's so gold, you know.
You mean because of what's her name, that girl? He was mocking.
Yeah,
that
he
girl, right?
opened up the pizza box and then they were able to find his location because no, they could find his fucking location anyway. They just didn't like the exposure and the way that it looked for what country was that? I'm sorry. Almost.
Oh, in
Or was it
Romania,
Romania, right?
in Romania, thank you.
Yeah.
It wasn't a good look for Romania to just be like, hey, you know,
Is that Coco's Pizza?
I'm telling you, man, pizza is a
Cucho?
dirty business.
Cocho.
You know what I always suspect is about pepperoni.
it's pronounced
You know,
cacos.
I never seen the interior inside of a pepperoni plant. I want to know what it's made of.
Dude, they don't.
I really want to know what the heck. It's not pork. That's all I know. It's not pork.
You've seen the factory,
I
bro.
swear to God, it's
I don't
not
want to
pork.
do a PETA video right
And
now, but
if-
it gets
if
pretty
I-
dark the more you look into it. I'll tell you what, it's worse than
If I figure out
Pizzagate
what-
is a pepperoni gate, really, when you find out what's in the pepperoni.
Oh, Fast Food Nation is worse than Pizzagate, and Pizzagate's pretty bad. So yeah, no, I don't know, man. That shit's
Great book, horrible movie.
Yeah.
I mean, it's bad enough to know what McNugget's made of. You know, that's enough to make me puke for days.
But the biggest takeaway for me from that Fast Food Nation book, which still blew
Yeah.
my mind, was how they pump out artificial smells that smell like burgers, that smells like fries. It's not even food; it's just made to smell like food. So as you drive by, it like attracts you to go there. But you're no longer eating the thing that you were smelling.
You know that's what Texas Chainsaw Massacre is about. Texas Chainsaw Massacre is one of the greatest subtextual movies that is basically the people are experiencing what the animals would. They got the whole slaughterhouse fixation in that movie. That movie is an activist movie about animal rights. And it's not a normal horror movie. And even like Tobe Hooper went on from this to do Poltergeist, you know, and it's like and on Life Force, I guess.
Alien's about rape, right? That's kind of it's like you get impregnated.
Alien is a
the whole-
psychoanalytical view of motherhood, not just motherhood, but impregnation and gestation. So the alien is literally a giant dick because he is psychologically representative of the man that impregnated her, and for her to deal with it as an alien is the whole point. So you'll notice there's a million clues, but when she boots the alien out in the first Alien and it screams the way that it screams, it's a baby. It's a
Right.
abort mission.
Well, I
It's
got
like-
something even better on this. On that the
Yeah.
alien and H.R. Geiger was heavily influenced by
Yeah,
Aleister
yeah.
Crowley. And on top of that,
Right.
specifically the lingam, which was the generative symbol of Shiva, and that lingam looks ridiculously similar to the shape of just the alien's head in general.
Totally.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and remember, he experienced, I think it was level 4 birth trauma, whatever that is. It was like the highest level of birth trauma you can have without dying. So like the way that H.R. Geiger came out
He's got a big head, you know what I'm saying?
was near death. So his first experience was a near death experience, you know. And
If
LSD
Andreas,
hugely a part of his whole
Andreas,
thing.
can you pull up H.R. Geiger his painting, the alien life cycle?
Do it.
So if you look at the painting, okay,
It was there, yeah.
so that one, if you look at it, that is the Egyptian, that is the steel of what do you call it? The steel of revealing.
Revealing.
Right? Yeah, steel of revealing. So you look at it, it's basically the god Newt, right? The god Newt. Okay, if you pull back, if you widen it again, you see God Newt. Of course, when it comes to that girl Newt, remember Newt in Aliens?
Yeah,
My
totally.
name is Newt, right? NEWT, but it's actually
Right.
Newt.
Celebration of the lizard.
Yeah, celebration of the lizard cycle. No, so if you look at that, this is pretty much exactly what H.R. Geiger believes in.
I don't know if I'm just looking into this, but the very top absolutely looks like the all-seeing eye of Providence in a little pyramid.
Right. And that's what it is. And so you know, the stela, however you say it, of revealing that. It's so funny that is a synchronicity for Crowley in his whole trip of what was happening. It's like, dude, this is like, I don't know what he was taking in Cairo or whatever, but when they go to that museum, it's that piece is numbered 666. And so that's like his whole thing is he's drawn to it. But you're like, dude, that's the museum numbering system.
That's
like that has no
number.
like ancient significance or whatever. But
Well,
yeah,
he's-
it's very Jungian.
What's the Memphis rites again?
He's the incarnation. That was his past life, right?
Memphis and Mizraim.
Newsroom.
Crowley's past
Well,
life.
he claimed he was Eliphas Levi in a past life, and before
that
that,
too.
I'm not familiar.
But the steel of revealing who inscribed it, that was his past incarnation.
So the Mizraim rites are like after the Scottish Rite 68 or what is it? How many you get to go? Because there's 93 or something. I remember I talked to a Scottish Rite guy and he talked that there's after the 33 there's more, and then it's like several different groups. But what's the difference? Is it like a death cult kind of level, or like the Book of the Dead for Freemasonry? What?
Oh well, they claim more ancient rituals that came from like the Egyptian rites, but within the United States, at least, this Memphis Mizraim's seen as irregular masonry, so you're not allowed to become a part of this type of masonry without being technically excommunicated from like general accepted Freemasonry. But it really is because of that high number of degrees, because it was so easy to manipulate people and draw them away from their lodge by doing that whole like, well, we've got 90 over here. What do you mean you only got up to 32? You know, like, come over here, we've got another 60 for you. And it was just like unfair because they didn't want to get into that situation where someone's like, well, I got 200, oh, I got 300, because that's the easiest sort of pattern to fall into here. Yeah, and it's supposed to come from Cagliostro.
So, but their idea is that they could, you know, this is the Darth Plagueis, the wise kind of level, right? Like they're trying to master death and deal with some of the Book of the Dead kind of thing. Like they have more effort into immortality, right, or something to that effect. We're just dealing with death.
Yeah, I mean, it gets into reincarnation and a lot more Egyptian symbolism, whereas Scottish Rite tends to pull a lot more from the Bible and a lot from like you know, Solomon's Temple and stuff.
So they're all into like, you know, you can once in a while see. Someone mentioned this the other day. There's a point when you can see all of your past incarnations. And also that you can prepare for the afterlife, and that you're preparing to become kind of a king or a lord in the afterlife, which is kind of like Mormonism in a sense too, that you have to prepare and have things ready for the other side to bring with you, and that the road's paved with gold and all that, right?
So is it safe to say that Albert Pike, you know, he is the founder of a Scottish Rite, right? So
well, not the founder, no. He helped standardize it within the United States, specifically the Southern jurisdiction. That's his kind of claim to fame. And he also wrote an extensive amount. That Morals and Dogma was one of the first examples of someone in English, American English, as funny as that kind of sounds, but he was the first one to really compile all that information. He gets compared to like Madame Blavatsky a lot, where Blavatsky didn't necessarily come up with this info, but she compiled it into a single volume that then got spread around. So Pike kind of did that same thing for Scottish Rite Masonry.
Yeah.
You want to see something kind of mind blowing, dude? Look at Scott Onstott's Secrets in Plain Sight video, the section on Washington D.C. when he shows Albert Pike's tomb and how it's geometrically situated. And so, like when I met Scott Onstott, first thing I did is after he spoke, I touched his feet. Doesn't have feet. He doesn't have legs. He's on metal. He was born that way, and he's missing one arm. But I said to him, I was like, one of my first questions, I was like, okay, so this thing with Albert Pike's tomb, like, did you start with Albert Pike's tomb and like look around it like out of curiosity, or did you literally just like get directed there because you were just looking at the geometry and you're like, well, this looks like a very significant point? But yeah, anyway, he said that he stumbled upon it. So he was like, what everything narrowed down to this point. And he was like, wow, this is a very tiny spot, but looks like something.
Wait, this is San Francisco.
Yeah, he has a section on. Did I say? Oh yeah, the section
I pulled up to San Francisco, not DC. Sorry.
But it's interesting though. I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, what he does with San Francisco is everything this guy does is mind blowing. And the cool thing with Scott Onstott is that he never tells you like the why or he'll tell you the what, but he won't tell you the why, because he's like open to it could be a range of things where what we build ends and what is nature begins. And it's like he can extrapolate significance, but he doesn't jump at it's freaking aliens or it's the Illuminati.
I used to follow him on Facebook, and then I don't know if he blocked me or not. I don't find him anymore. I tried.
I think he left Facebook a long time ago.
Oh, yeah. I was wondering.
Yeah, he's not a Facebook type of guy,
Yeah, but I was having a discussion with him years ago, but yeah, I don't know what happened to him.
He like his son was praising him when I was talking about how I was like, do you know how cool your dad is? And he was like, and then his son just like said something really good about his dad. And his dad took out a $20 bill, and Scott just hands a $20 bill to his son, and his son puts it in his pocket. And then like we talk for like another 5 minutes, and then Scott compliments his son, and his son takes a $20 bill back out of his pocket and hands it back to him like he's paying him for the thing. And it was just like the whole vibe of it. I was like, this is a good kid. Like most kids would just be like $20, cool, walk away, but he was like, here you go,
paying for compliments around there.
There's one other sync to on that Rites of Memphis Miserium, and that's that this is you would have to know some of like the weird esoteric nature, but a lot of people claim that the Illuminati somehow transferred directly from Adam Weishaupt to Albert Pike and Mazzini, which doesn't make sense because the times don't match up. But the guy that was in charge of standardizing the Rites of Memphis Miserium was Giuseppe Garibaldi, and he was a peer of Mazzini. And I think they ended up fighting a little bit, but the connection here between the secret societies, specifically the Illuminati, which turned to the Freemasons, and then Mazzini's Carbonari, is a fascinating one, because the Carbonari is an example of a secret society. Like Italy had so many that it wasn't even a question that if you wanted to have any sort of political power, you had to join not just one or two or three, but like every secret society you could get your hands on. That was the only way that you could come up in the power. So it's a fascinating aspect of this, because in like America and in Europe, a lot of people look at these secret societies as like almost no one was part of them, or if they were part of this elite. Whereas in Italy, like you had to be, if you wanted any sort of power at any capacity, you were members of multiple of these groups.
Yeah. Hey, Thomas, so Mazzini and Albert Pike, I have to ask you this: is that that the secret letter that allegedly wrote to each other about World War III, three World Wars? I
understand that. I might be completely wrong here.
Is that anywhere real?
I understand
that complete BS?
That came out of the same sort of traction as Leo Taxel's kind of hoax on Freemasonry, that there was a bunch of fake letter. Yeah, I've understood this one to be completely made up. I haven't seen any evidence that convinces me one way or the other, but I haven't seen anything that makes that seem like a legit letter.
I know.
But
I have
it
this.
You call me
seems to
an
make sense.
apologist, but
I'm with you on that one.
Yeah.
It doesn't fit. Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think three is the perfect number. So you can't just have 2 more wars. You got to finish it. But I don't know.
But like a lot of people say that Mazzini took over the Bavarian Illuminati, right? Well, the Bavarian Illuminati ended in like 1798, give or take 5 years, and he wasn't born until 1805. So I mean,
Yeah,
Right. So he's not the direct successor.
No, but like, so after a generation, so you got 20 years in between, the sons and it's like one war to another war, one generation to another generation. It usually takes 20 to 50 years, probably 25 years, to have another order kind of develop, right?
But I think that this was just him being part of the Carbonari and the Carbonari being linked to the Illuminati, just in that they were both kind of, like national secret societies.
Right. So the Carbonari are also all over the world, right? Like Uruguay and South America. There's a lot of connections. So what do you think about the Carbonari? They're still kind of a thing. Like Catholic connected Masons or what?
I think it's badass. The name comes from they would go out into the middle of the woods at night and kind of like talk over embers that would like provide them, and that's where the name Carbonari came from. It was the charcoal burners, because that's how they would meet in the middle of the woods.
Hey, can I just say with that quote that even if it's not Albert Pike, if that doesn't check out, it's interesting nonetheless. Like that's like if that is like an artifact, is that like
someone's saying that about
the protocols of the Elders of Zion is very similar. Like even if it was plagiarized, it's fascinating that they had like humanity down to a T.
Right, like Behold a Pale Horse. What's that guy's name? The original
Bill Cooper.
Bill Cooper's book. You know how he has that section on the
Silent
what
weapons
was
for
it? The
quiet
Silent
wars?
War. Yeah, that was found in the copying machine from an auction.
Yeah, the old Xerox machine from a government auction. Yeah, dude, that's one of my favorite stories of all time.
so yeah, just reading that, like the whole the attitude, the nomenclature of what was supposedly found is fascinating.
Well, it was supposed to be written by Lord
true.
Rothschild. Baron Lord Rothschild wrote that personally. That's the original lore behind Silent Weapon for Quiet Wars.
Is that what? Is that like a? That's not what he said. It
opens up and it gives credit to. No, it actually says somewhere in there that.
Okay.
Lord Baron Rothschild is the one that came up with this technology of applying electrical currents to society and to the money system. If no one's ever read Silent Weapon for Quiet Wars, highly recommended. It really does break down Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars.
There you go.
And it's about applying the principles of electricity. And like one of the good examples is that if you've got elections coming up, what you can do is loosen the policing. Oh yeah, that Kill Army album, by the way, is freaking awesome. But you loosen the policing in like a city, right? So all of a sudden the cops aren't pulling people over and busting them for drugs and all kinds of other things. And it just makes overall like that society a little bit more easygoing. There's less violence, there's less fighting. And then the second that they crank down the dial, and all of a sudden they just pull everyone over and they arrest you for finding like a seed in your car and everything, it actually just kind of like raises the tension of that entire sort of society. And by doing this, you can kind of control the temper of a certain city. So if there's a political group in power and you don't want them to be in power long, you just enforce the laws way stricter than normal. And then when someone comes in that you want to be more favorable, you don't enforce the laws as strictly, and people just automatically assign that to the people that are ruling them.
Right, which is it's connected to scapegoatism in general, where people like basically project onto an individual everything that's going on. So you go to pump your gas and you're visualizing Joe Biden. You go to pump your gas and you're visualizing. You're like, this is fuck you, and you have a place to put it too, which is also just.
Well, the principle is that energy will flow to the path of least resistance, and that's exactly how that all kind of comes together. Where that Joe Biden sticker is the path of least resistance, right? I'm angry at this sticker now.
Right. Well, even just in general, in your fucking head, it gets in. These are figureheads, and then shit is going on, and you're like, who's to blame? And it's like, well, who's really to blame? Like, there's a lot of people to blame.
Has anyone ever thought about how A and W here is alpha and omega, right? So A and W root beer. Is there something there?
Yes.
I want there to be.
It's
Yeah,
in
I'll
the
just
new
say
Lana
yes.
Del Rey album, actually.
I feel like there's
So there's a
alpha
song
and
called
omega.
A&W in the new Lana Del Rey album that's totally relates to what you're talking
Didn't she
about.
have an album called Chemtrails Over Country Clubs too?
Yeah, she did.
What's
and
the
that
new
syncs with
Lana
the
Del Rey
Misfits.
thing?
She's good.
What's the new song or whatever you're saying?
So she did. Did you know that there's a tunnel under Ocean Boulevard? Is her latest album, and it's really long, and it's got
So cool.
it's got her pastor on it and stuff. A lot of
Alright, well,
people
now
are
she
like
seems
who
cool.
are like into Lana are like falling off the Lana train, but I'm like
I'm about to
more
get on
into
the
Lana's
train, bro.
music than
You know
ever.
what?
I think what she's been producing her last few albums has been fucking stellar.
I mean, well,
ever since I read about her story with Marilyn Manson and what's his name, the director of that crazy director, he directed the Brad Pitt movie with the Nazis.
Babylon? No, yeah, the Quentin Tarantino.
No, it was his buddy. What's his name?
Oh, Inglorious
No.
Bastards. That was what you're talking about, yeah.
Oh yeah. Glorious Bastards. What the director's name? What's his name?
Yeah. I forget.
So allegedly they were shooting the snuff film, whatever you call it. Basically,
I mean,
she was saying she was being raped by these two.
Brian Warner really makes Freemasonry look bad. You know, it's one of those things where people point out and they're like, "Oh, well,
He makes
not
it
like
look
that."
fun. I don't
No.
know, man.
Warner, Maryland. Because he's like, well, I mean, all right, he does make it look like it'd be a lot of fun if you're rapey. I mean, he seems like he's constantly a handler for some child starlet who's on drugs that he's, like destroying the life of as quickly as possible because she's already pretty much half gone anyway at 25.
Have you seen what he put on? Like he was completely not sharing anything anywhere for like a while, no interviews, no anything, and then he just released his like the evidence for what's her name, Evan Rachel Wood, that she basically imitated an FBI agent and was working with this other woman with this like crazy fucking criminal record who she was like apparently in a relationship with, who basically they sent Marilyn Manson threatening letters, messages that were stating that they were coming from law enforcement. And so they were basically approaching all these women to get to come up with stories, to get their stories right for a documentary that they were working on. And it was like so like big caught big time line. And so he actually shared like the documented evidence that's from the
they were trying to strum. That kind of comes up because all right, and we're nearly to the end, but I'll do one more at least of interest to me, which was where is it at? This guy from Jackass,
Bam
Margera.
Bam Margera, thank you. So we tried doing this on base, but it was nobody cared enough to talk about it. And I get it. I don't really care that much about Bam Margera either, but it seems really interesting to me because he's this guy who everyone says is completely insane. And he made a bunch of money and he does a lot of drugs, but like, it
That's
seems like his
mansion right there.
It seems like he gave his family all these great houses and everything, but his brother and everybody, they're all trying to take away his money and control him, allegedly, he says. And then he's threatened and hit his brother and said, if you ever try to like report me to the police and all this other stuff. But it's like because they made the point that he has to do anything that they say because he's famous. And there's optics on him, so they can destroy his life publicly anytime there's a newspaper article about anything that goes down. Whereas most white trash would just get not even a cops episode about it. He's got all this news on him, and like no one even remembers him, right? Like it's just this guy now.
Well, also, if MTV just had cameras on him filming these horrible things that he was doing, as long as they were making money off of it and had commercial ads, it would be fine. But the fact that he's doing it in his own private life and it's not being monetized,
right?
Yeah, now all of a sudden it's a problem, right? It's like, oh, he hit his brother and urinated in the sink. It's like, have you seen?
And like, dude, you're like, and I hear about any of these guys that were involved in fucking Jackass or CS. What is it called?
CKY.
Yeah, CKY. Like I'm just like I've seen what their lifestyle was. I'm like, if they kept that up on any level, it's like, oh, well, where are they? Where are they now? You know, I just assume the worst, honestly. Like, I'm just like,
I disagree because there's like 3 people that were really like that. Like Johnny is that his name? Johnny Nashville? What's his name?
Yeah,
No, Johnny, not Knoxville.
Knoxville, yeah.
Knoxville. See, I knew I was getting it wrong. See, this is how old we are. We're like, oh yeah, those guys from the 90s.
You were like 40 miles away. You were on there.
This guy's a
They
smart
made
guy.
another Jackass movie. They're not just from the 90s.
Where's
man.
the
They're
picture of
fucking
him
still
now?
going.
Look at him now. This is this dude. Dude.
This guy's worth $70 million.
Yeah,
compared to the rest of
he's not
Jackass
a-
crew's got
and he was
nothing.
always-
Do his
he always
balls
wanted to-
work? I mean, my
always-
God, the guy's been kicked in the nuts more times than fucking.
I mean, he does look pretty estrogenated right now. No comment. My thought though was that he's more into theater, and he ended up doing what he had to do to be an actor. He wants to do theater. He's obsessed with theater. This idea that this guy is this drugged out guy likes to hit his head. That's what he had to do for a community access television station show because they do whatever they could to do show. Even
Right.
Steve-O, I think, similarly, is not.
Well, Steven was a drug addict for the longest time.
Well,
I mean,
yeah, but he's
I
not
mean,
exactly the.
Knoxville is the straight edge guy. You know, he doesn't. He really was a. He is a businessman. That's
Well,
why
they
he's
got a
so
lot of
rich.
money too, and apparently that's a cure for AIDS as well. So you know, whatever.
Do
It's
anything
just.
for you, but
I mean, look at the
what's-
Rolling Stones are still kicking.
But then why are
They're
they
touring.
destroying? Then why do they destroy Bam Margera? Like, what do they have against Bam Margera? Because he doesn't seem that different from them, and somehow he seems less evil than them.
Well, I don't
His
know.
best friend got killed in a car accident, and that's when he went off the deep end. Supposedly, the redhead guy.
I made that post because he's got that crazy satanic tattoos all over his body.
Yeah, we'll
He's
get
got-
there.
he's-
This is his
he's
buddy
got all
that passed away,
residuals.
though. When this guy died,
Ryan Dunham.
Right when Ryan Dunham died, that destroyed Bam Margera. But I
That
don't
was a
know.
long time ago, though.
Yeah, but he's been like this ever since. And here's his cool tattoo, which is
Right.
trademarked butt heart.
Well,
It's
with the
him at the
Grand
top,
Leviathan, we got a-
Lucifer, and
Heartogram.
Well, that hexagram. How do you explain the hexagram with the look that?
it's his band.
He didn't want to do math in high school, so he
Oh,
doodled
it
a
is
lot.
right. Okay.
Yeah, it's a heart pentagram. It's
Yeah,
brilliant.
it's a heartogram. Yeah.
Okay.
And technically, that original aspect of the 5-star upside down pentagram was also a Christian symbol. It was it
Oh,
only
I'm sure.
became somewhat of it had bad vibes when Elphys Levi mentioned that that the 2 prongs down was an inversion, that it was like an homage to the material world versus
Dude.
the top prong pointed up.
I never thought of
There's
this.
a little bit more of a
Is
church.
Elvis, because the way you just said Elvis, and I'm probably pronouncing it wrong anyway, but like it sounded like Elvis. And people make a whole Elvis connection to the Statue of Liberty and some like ancient Egyptian shit or whatever. Elvis was way into Esoterica. His book collection was nuts. It was like a lot of
Really? I never heard that
theosophy and
before.
yoga. And,
Oh,
yeah.
what? Yeah, no, Elvis died reading
Well-
about Kundalini magic on the toilet doing Kegel exercises. That was the story, right? He was doing his.
What's
Uh,
Well,
that's a
just look at his
Rosicrucian
magic.
symbol next to Elvis. What's going on with the
Yeah, well,
Rosicrucians?
There's so much going on. For one thing, his outfits were based on the Hindu mystics, right? That's why he dressed like that. And he dyed his hair black and he had blonde hair as a kid and everything else. Also, he came from a Jewish family that had to kind of hide their Judaism in Tennessee. So that was something that I remember recently. It was a big thing that they were talking about, that he would sit Shiva a few times when he could get he did it a few times because he connected it, but it was not something that his family ever particularly practiced. And he got more and more into the esoterics. He's a member of a lodge and got into Rosicrucianism and got really into the Veda and into Eastern magic and into Kundalini. And so he was doing yoga and all this other stuff, right?
Right.
Oh,
Yeah, it's
yeah,
funny
his-
because we
I
always
think
look
the
at the
ring was a
cheeseburger
horseshoe.
milkshake Elvis, and it's just like, no, dude, this guy was like very well studied. So is Marilyn Monroe.
Right. Yeah,
There's
there's some
reason
crazy
why
stuff
he
with
was-
Elvis. I mean, for one thing, yeah. So he had a Kundalini book with him when he died. And so they always tell you the story that he died on a toilet, but they don't tell you like it was because he was practicing Kegel exercises and trying to lift his Kundalini
He was
through his third
Well,
eye.
you got to open up all the chakra and put it.
The other thing was the Elvis witness. So like these guys who like used to take Elvis around, I forget, but they did this. They made it. They're like, I swear on a Bible, we were trying to get to a show, and Elvis was in the back seat of the limo, and he said, "What's going on?" I was like, we can't get there, Elvis. There's a storm, major flood, worst hurricane we've ever seen. He said, "Open the window." I said, "There's 90-mile-an-hour wind." He said, "Open the window." You don't listen to Elvis tell you twice. So I roll it down. Elvis puts his hands up and he just falls back into his chair. And as his hands fall down into his lap, the clouds open and it parts on either side of the limousine. and the roads, just the water runs to the side, and we get to the show. And I swear to, I put my hand on the Bible. I swear to God, I saw Elvis do it. So I don't know. A lot of people talk about like,
dude,
Elvis
I
having
fucking believe it,
mystical
dude.
power, you know?
Dead at 42 and 77. Come on.
Yeah. And you know the whole thing with Elvis and Nixon, right? Because he went to Nixon and said, "Hey, all these leftists think that I'm some sort of, there's a real drug problem, a real communist American conspiracy. I want you to make me an agent for the DEA." I think Johnny Knoxville, weird sync. Johnny Knoxville's in that movie.
That's right. Weird.
That is random.
So he actually got a badge from Nixon, right?
Yeah, he got a badge to be a secret undercover DEA agent for Nixon. Yeah, straight up. I mean, and so the way the movie presents
he also had a
sick
sick owl belt. I don't know if you've ever seen the Elvis owl belt.
Bohemian Grove. Let's see. Elvis owl belt. Let's look at this. Oh, wow. That's it?
Yeah, that's it.
Dang. See, because I always like how in the face of an owl, you can see this horrifying Baphomet or Baal kind of thing. A horned character emerges. Similar in the dollar bill. Owl.
It can see in the dark. I think that's the Illuminati connection for you.
Stars.
Where's the backside? Back.
All this talk about the owl on the dollar bill. I'm like, I can't even see it. I mean, I see
the top right corner, bro.
No. Just right here, though. The wings make the head of an owl. You know what I mean?
What?
And the two eyes are the space on either side of the shoulder.
I see it.
It's almost like a skull too, because the shield makes this horrifying teeth across it.
You know that actually it's supposed to be an alien head, right? You know that one, right? That whole eagle's supposed to be like the gray alien's head.
I do see the big old head emerging.
I've seen that conveyed before.
Do you guys think the top right is an owl, or do you think that's just something that people?
I think it's an owl.
So where is that again? It's like up here somewhere.
Right, a little bit more.
Very top right.
More to the right. More to the right. More.
Oh, is it clipped out? You can't even see.
It's clipped out. You got a little.
No, of course it's clipped out.
They don't want you to see it, man. There he is.
Oh, but you know access denied. Come on.
You know that great seal there with the eagle relates to the ninth gate. Did I talk about that with you guys before? Probably did. So go down to that spot that you were looking at before with the star, the 6-pointed star.
Yeah, 1 second.
Oh, hey, so what's that? The thing on the Bohemian Grove, right? The owl on the front door, right? The weaving spiders come down here.
They got a fucking watermark right there. Yeah, the weaving spiders. This looks like looks like spider webs all over the fucking place too. So this shape. So this is 13 stars, right? Mm-hmm. So if you continue with this formation, so it's hard to explain some words, but like if you go around the whole shape of it and continue that, and you do that 9 times, you end up with the gematria of Israel. And so there's 9 pathways to the upper worlds in the Kabbalistic tree of life, and there's 13 pathways below. So this integrates the 13 and the 9 and convey. So it's 541, which also in Kurt Vonnegut books, that was the alternative name for his planet Tralfamador. And he had some crazy esoteric connections and stuff.
I mean, look at it.
It's also the rose compass, because there's 33 lines around the star. And so a compass, let me try that again. Compass rose, I think is actually the way it's called. See, and so the 33, you can divide 360 into conveniently. And then you've got 13 stars made of pentagrams in the shape of a 6-pointed hexagram. Right. So there's some fun stuff going on there with numerology for sure.
Totally.
Yeah. I don't know how you would do the order of operations on that symbol math, though. Which one would you start with? Do you start with the number of shapes or the number size?
When it comes to this context, usually you start with the number you want to get to, and then you just kind of reverse engineer and find out.
It'd be a math formula. It'd be like 13 of 5 in 6, by 6 or something like that. Or right? No. So divide by 13, right? I don't know. We have to write this out as a formula.
I found this out because I did this. I haven't seen anybody speak to this. So like this whole trip around that you can extend it in 9 formations and get the gematria of Israel. Like I've yet to see that mentioned elsewhere. I laid it out with change on my floor.
I mean, definitely, it's interesting with the weaving spiders thing because the idea that maybe Bohemian Grove is like Burning Man, and don't let money be the thing that ruins this place. Don't let business be the meanings we're talking about here. You know,
Maybe
let's
it
have
has
this
to do with the Catholic Church being run by a giant spider, though.
probably Jesuit spider. You've seen this is I don't know if I can just type in Jesuit spider and see it. Jesuit symbol. It's not going to come up other Jesuit
If this were
church.
stable diffusion, you could see it.
Oh gosh, yeah, it would help a lot. No, there's a symbol they have though, not just the IHS, which is the SHI and then the T, but there's also a there's one that it does look like a spider, but I don't know where I would find it right now. I don't know.
The Jesuit spider is the last pope.
Freemasons, Mazzini, the Memphis Egyptian death cults. Let's see, let's go back a bit. There was one more, wasn't there? Was there another thing? Human Centipede. Don't watch that movie. The sequel's better. Jackass, Synchronous. I'm gonna look at the anything on Synchronous I want to cover.
Oh yeah, we got some crazy stuff. Actually, go to the top again. So this, we were talking about this one.
Yeah,
just go down, keep it going down. About AI. So because Biden announced his president's he's running for president today, right? So Republicans they put out a video. That was from the Give Me Liberty. So I was trying to mock it because they put out a video anti-Biden.
Give Me Liberty. What else you got?
Yeah. But that video was generated by AI. Did you read about that?
Oh, really?
Yeah, why does the Republican Party want to generate a campaign video out of AI? Look up I put the article link in there. Go back to my post.
Fascinating topic to me because on the AI sort of like the anti-AI Luddite sort of movement, a lot of people were banking on Republicans to be anti-AI. So with this video coming out, it shot down a lot of people that were hoping on one political party being against it.
Yeah, it's just very bizarre. I don't know why they did. I know knowing that this is going to draw a lot of controversy.
I think you also know it's like eventually you just have AI characters that play everybody, and so they're making the point. I don't know, but yeah.
So Philip K. Dick.
Yeah.
Can we see do his AI ears? Are they connected or not connected?
6 fingers.
It depends on how warm it is and if the glue starts to heat.
Rabbit hole. What is that square? What is that? Okay. What is that weird flesh square thing that he had? If you're going to talk about zooming in on Joe Biden's face.
Oh no! Oh yeah, Joe Biden's flesh square. Yeah.
What is that? Do you have any thoughts on what that could be?
No. It's not on his face, but it's on his ear.
It's above his ear. Weird,
there's like a weird, on his face. But I saw a photo with an ear cut out of his ear. This is like a rectangular shape.
Yeah, there's like a rectangle on his ear.
I don't know. What is
So you guys don't watch the show, do you? The Rabbit
Not yet. I will do it though.
So the last episode actually went into blackmailing the government, basically saying, he's big. Well, so the Weird, the lead character played by Sutherland, he was telling the senators that, hey, you better give me the secret, tell me the name of your handler, and then she said, well, I'm not going to give it up. Well, I know all of you. I know enough to take you down. And she's like, well, my handlers got a lot more than you to take me down. So basically, she's saying the whole thing, saying, everything that about me is being recorded. And basically saying, if my tape ever goes to public, everybody who has my last name would change their name. So the whole video. So if you scroll down, actually, I didn't post those snapshots, but then his partners were trying to figure out so what is it? What is it that they got on her? Is it a sex tape? And then it's the black guy who's her bodyguard. So he's look at him as a note, and and then he said another word. He said, "Oh, it's not a sex tape. Then what is it?" And then hold on 1 second. I'm trying to go back to my Facebook account. I put it in there, but this
something to do with German handkerchiefs and pizza, right?
Yeah. Well, hold on. God damn it. trying to organize.
It's crazy
my stuff.
that Nicole Kidman's in Rabbit Hole,
So-
considering an Eyes Wide Shut that has that whole everything's Alice in Wonderland theme, where she's Alice, her husband's Bill. There goes Bill, the lizard, and the daughter's Helena, and Helena's the name of Alice's teacher at the beginning of Alice in Wonderland. But in Eyes Wide Shut, she's like, it's her. She's there with her tutor or whatever. She's got a teacher there teaching the kid, so it's like, but she's Helena now, so it's like this role reversal. It's just, anyway.
Helena.
Okay, so
Helena.
So that post
Helena.
basically, I'd never seen any TV show talked about it, but that's basically Epstein. How the syndicate hijacked the whole government.
I'm
Yeah,
pretty
they
sure you're
definitely-
supposed to watch Rabbit Hole and Utopia at the same time.
Utopia
Okay.
talks about that too.
No, Utopia-
Black
haven't
Widow
gotten
is
There are a lot of
started.
definitely-
subjects.
Black Widow definitely had some Epstein stuff going on. I recommend that if you haven't seen that yet. It feels like these are the mainstream apologies about what's been going on. They're like, yeah, you need to have some idea of what's going on, right? Like a little bit, right? You know that there's, secret agent girls in the sky that are run by Epstein, at least, something. The little bits of the info.
Yeah.
I love the UCX. All right. Is there any more things
there
you
might
wanna show?
there might be one more to give. Let's see.
The moon thing was funny.
Oh no, I was talking about Tony. Yeah, because I was listening to the video.
Kathy
recording
O'Brien
on-
and Mark Phillips. Also.
Yeah, so Mark Phillips, when he opened that Granada speech, he was talking about Tony Robbins being a master, NLP, right? The neo linguistics. So saying that he was teaching the likes of George Bush Sr. and Bill Clinton. So I'm just making that post and saying that it's possible that
I know you're supposed to believe women, but I have a hard time with Kathy O'Brien. I'm just saying.
you think so. I think she.
I want a
she's still-
T-shirt that says
she's still
"Believe
being handled
reptilians."
somehow.
Have you guys
Yeah.
heard her claims about the scalpel and the little
Yeah,
man that
labia.
got carved into her?
Right.
Well,
The
it's
Moloch
actually
logo.
on video. It's on video. Did you see
Magog's
that
logo.
video?
Yeah.
It was there's a camera crew from GNN, right? What is it called? The news network. But
Did
this
she actually show it off? Is there a little
Yeah.
face
Yeah,
on there?
Yeah.
Yeah,
she
they
showed
actually
it.
went to the
It's Magog's sigil, right? Isn't that the deal?
yeah. Who decided to carve it out of her? It was
Wasn't it Bush Bush Senior?
I think it was either Bush Senior or she was also saying a lot of bad things about
Cheney too.
who was that president that was never elected? What's his name? Gerald Ford.
Oh,
I think Gerald Ford has something to do with it.
Ford was definitely weird because he was really Gerald Ford. I mean, just because we're going there, was like one of the best comedic actors of our time. Like he's really a physical comedian, so he's able to do all the falling down the stairs things and everything.
Yeah,
like
he's really Dick Van Dyke about it.
Yeah. And it's like, because you had to do that. If you're going to be this guy who didn't get elected, take over America right in between CIA transitionary period, you had to do physical comedy because that was the kind of comedy that was universal. Like the Three Stooges, everyone in British Samoa, American Samoa, they all got it. They all thought that Ford was funny. So that's the kind of president you have to be. But the whole Bush Magog thing is interesting because, the idea that when you find out later on that all the stuff that she was saying actually lines up, that he really did have this Skull and Bones Club, that they did a lot of these things. The idea of there being, what was it, at night, naked, dropped off and chased by horseback and captured like a fox hunt. That was the kind of way that they would, catch these kids and brand them, allegedly.
Go back to last screen. Go back to last screen. Okay, who's that reporter on the left, upper left?
The one who
He
got
died-
killed when he asked about the Skull and Bones?
Yeah. Right after he asked George Bush, well, you belong to the secret society with John Kerry, right? And then he interviewed both of them, right? He's the
Well,
one
I
who-
can't
He
comment on
died
that.
soon after too.
Yeah,
he died
exactly.
like a few days after. He's like, heart attack.
Heart attack gun.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of those CIA weapons.
He later apologized to Dick Cheney from his death, after his death.
Right. A lot of people have apologized to Dick Cheney. That guy got shot in the face, apologized to him for being in the way.
That's
Oh my
right.
God.
I'm still picking it out of my face.
Well, all right. I think we're at a pretty deep point. Let me show them where they can get some of their stuff. Is there anything else you want me to make sure I share before I pull them to where they get your content?
You can
You
show
guys
my Twitter feed. I got a few new posts. I've been trying to get into the same habit as you guys of posting all the stuff that we've been working on.
What's up, Bernie? There's
Oh,
Bernie.
wow.
I see him there.
You really came in the last minute.
Hey, shameless plug time. Good time to see you. How you doing?
That's right.
Well, hold on really quickly. Paranoid American, one more show. So they got the 1966 Wild Wild West season 1. This is important. We've talked about this before, that he based his face, Anton LaVey based his aesthetic on Asmodeus, right? Don Rickles' character.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite. Is that modern day Satanism is based on Don Rickles?
I mean, that's America.
Clearly.
I mean, Alf should be somewhere involved with this too. And then
Alf
some of
is.
we'll get into the Aleph next time. But then also looking at some of your stable diffusion work, because you showed last time on Bernie's show some of the real science stuff, how you've been going about training your AI, which is amazing. And you've been doing some cool stuff. Ooh, retweeting David Hogg, a job with the FBI.
You're not sharing, by the way.
12 years ago.
That's hilarious.
No,
you can't just see my dreamy eyes and call it enough. Okay, let me try that again.
David Hogg got recruited by the FBI like 12 years ago. He's just saying
Yeah.
it like super.
He's not that old. What are you talking about?
It was definitely a parody tweet, but it seemed like so real. But yeah, that's
Really?
my latest
It's not
John
even real?
Fetterman.
I figure
It
eventually
was
we'll
not
have
a
to
it
admit
was not a real tweet. No, it's a fake account.
I'll totally believe it soon. A homunculus can be one type of homunculus can be made from the womb of a monkey. Using its blood as an ointment allows you to see the spirits and demons. This reminds me of that Monkey King show from China from the 80s. That's great.
Yeah, this one's an excerpt from the homunculus owner's manual that I'm coming out with Juan, and it's got over 70 unique illustrations that break down not just all the different types of homunculi, from alchemical, spiritual. We even make a really strong argument that the Epstein might have been trying to create a corporate homunculus in a way. So I think that's a really good one.
My God, this is a day wasted. No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, Thomas, somebody was calling you the homunculus of the show several times.
Wait.
I'm okay with that.
We need to cover blank check again from last week, and I also want to show David's MetLife post. Okay, so David has talked about this before, but it's very important to me that you all know about this. Met is the Hebrew word for death, and if you ever think about MetLife, you don't laugh every time you hear it. There's something wrong with you. That's all I'm saying.
Don't be a golem. Don't be a golem.
Any more expand on that? Aleph is actually this can tie to Alf too, because of the Aleph. Keep going.
It's true. Yeah. So if you're done with the golem, you remove the aleph from Amet, which is truth, and it becomes death. And so, like, obviously, Met life insurance is like death life insurance, like it's death insurance. Yeah. So there's other things. So like Sirius, the Hebrew for Sirius is Barak. And if you remove the aleph from Barak, you get the Hebrew for lightning. And so, from Keter, you have aleph extends to Chokhmah. And so that is the first path of the lightning flash that extends through the tree. So it's like, and to relate then, it's indicating what that third pillar is. So you're like, you have the sun and the moon, simply put, and you have Sirius, so.
Brutal. I mean, yeah, the others, now I want to think again just about like removing Alf from his home world and what that really has to do with Kabbalah. But
Alf has everything to do with the Golden Bough, but we can talk about that another time.
We gotta go so deep into Alf. Oh my God! Let me just give
a
moment
of show just on Alf.
A moment of silence.
There might be a connection here to the Iran-Contra scandal too, since the dad ended up being a crackhead, right?
What's the deal with Iran-Contra? Yeah, you know what though? How else would you do that show? And also that makes the dad on Alf seem that much cooler. Because I always wondered, like, how did he actually get that wife of his? Because she's like pretty fly, Where is she at? Look at that. He got a good family
Nancy
going.
Reagan was the first one.
Dude, Have you seen the outtakes from Alf where he's just throwing the N-word around and just being totally crazy?
But it was a different time.
Those were wild times,
Wild times. So we talked about blank check last time, and then you were like, I wonder if there's a Glenn Maxwell sync. And then lo and behold, the woman from Blank Check with Glenn Maxwell. And is this not the producer? What was his? He's the guy who made the movie, right? What is this guy?
I actually don't know who that guy was.
I don't know who that guy is either.
He's a producer. I forget, but he's a producer on the movie, I think.
I was actually looking up Karen Duffy images to do a training on her, and that image popped up and my mind exploded.
I mean, I appreciate that you've got the same psychological issues that I do. That's all I can say about that. TheSyncBook.com, make sure you go there because there's all kinds of crazy stuff going on at TheSyncBook.com. You should always be listening to Always Record, 42 minutes. But if you go to videos, you can find under Hindsight's 2020 the documentary that you ought to see, Syncflix. Syncflix, you got all of David's amazing masterpiece synchronicity work.
I've been up. I did like 3 nights to like 6, 7 a.m. like working on the new Lana Sync, and it's three movies, also using films mirrored and all kinds of things. But I was hoping to have it all done by tonight, but I had to. There's there's technical things I had to do that are just crazy. Like I'm taking a film called Tulsa that's like I think from the 1940s. And it's like I could like looking for versions that work. Like everything had a watermark. If it was like higher quality, like I tried to torrent it. I put it out there to my internet community of people trying to find this.
Have you found the idea of just stretching the movie to the length of the movie that you want it to be? Because if you take a HD quality movie and shorten or speed it up, will that do it?
It wasn't a timing issue. It was just like a resolution issue.
Wow.
And so the only version that I could find that had decent resolution was actually had overdub of Spanish. So I had to take another version of it and put it underneath it and just like work in the volume from below. So like to lip sync it. And so like because the volume gets raised in between vocals. And so like it was just, and then there's watermarks that occur every so often. So I had to clip out the one and then make it look continuous. So even though like, so every so often it changes quality. It's like, it's a fucking weird process.
Wait, is the movie Tulsa? Is that it?
It's Tulsa, yeah.
Yeah,
it's Tulsa,
cool.
Tulsa and 7-Eleven Ocean Drive and Diary of a Teenage Girl, which she references in the album. And I think she's referencing it because of R. Crumb's wife, actually.
Brutal.
She's gained some weight and she's, you know.
Well, make sure you go to Synchronous on Twitter and the Facebook group as well. If you have Facebook, you can look for Synchronicity work throughout the week and you can pitch in, throw some synchronicity back at in our face, you know, and you can get, this is a group on Facebook. You somehow are able to say some things, but if you don't, because you get 30 days off, it doesn't matter. Once you're off of Facebook, get right back on Twitter and you can read most of these posts.
Oh, go back to that John McAfee post that you just scroll by.
Right. Hold on. I'll go right back. Here we go.
So I just want to clear my name because somebody last week put it on YouTube saying that Eddie's a Trump voter. I voted for a dead man. I voted for John McAfee.
Yeah,
and
bro.
He warned you about the vaccine. Look. Okay. Anyway,
this is why I trust Eddie with anything but
I
trust Eddie with anything than gambling or my money. You know what I mean? Because I wouldn't put my money on anything Eddie puts his money on. But
not with someone that goes and spends $200 at a pastry shop on an afternoon.
I would. That's what I would do with Eddie. I would definitely go do. I'd get pastries in a death cult that used to be Reagan's parlor room. Oh, of course I would. Sorry.
It's very random, man. It just happens, you know.
I accidentally closed Paranoid American's thing, but make sure you go to Paranoid American, the greatest comic book. You have to subscribe. I'm ashamed of some of you because by now you could have clicked on this button. So show me you love me. Click on notify me at launch. It's free. That way we can get this comic book
Show you love
out.
us.
Show you love us.
And this issue two, it opens up this whole entire storyline that we expand on through the rest of the issues about Tartantia, which is a combination of Tartaria that exists inside of Inner Earth, but it's completely ruled by Crowleyan sort of magic cultists that believe that magic comes out of the butt. And there's this huge sort of like
so totally different than the other one. No,
yeah.
Okay. I can't wait. So yeah, go to Paranoid American. Make sure you go to the Sync book. Crypto Alchemist, because Bernie's here. Make sure you go to Crypto Alchemist and keep this man subscribed. He's been having some problems, so let's all pray for Bernie and work together to make sure everything's fixed there. And everyone send your love to anybody always.
Thank you.
You know what I mean? Also, Bernie, help me out after I got to talk to you because I was trying to figure out what happened with the administration account on StreamYard. I couldn't get into it earlier, but it's
really.
They're getting to us.
Oh, okay. I will try to. Yeah, I'll try to help you figure that out. Yeah, I saw you though. Luckily, I added you on Benjamin Balderson's.
Thank God. I'll tell Ben that we should do something again soon. I love Ben.
100%
He's great.
I will.
Dude, okay. I love you all. We'll see you tomorrow and next week. And good night and good luck.
Much love, everybody.
Good journey.
Hello. Welcome to the Xirtus.